Deep beneath deserts, carved into mountains, and hidden under layers of sediment, ancient structures reveal engineering that does not match the timeline assigned to them. Multi-ton stone blocks shaped with microscopic precision. Underground chambers cut into solid bedrock with smooth internal angles. Walls assembled without mortar, yet resistant to earthquakes for thousands of years. Some monuments align precisely with solstices, equinoxes, and specific star positions long before formal astronomy existed. Others show signs of sudden abandonment, tools left behind, construction halted mid-process. These are physical facts, not folklore. The real mystery is not whether they exist, but how such technical capability appeared so early in human history. If primitive tools were all they had, why do the results look anything but primitive? In the heart of Pueblo Bonito, within the arid valley of Chaco Canyon, where dry winds blow year-round, stands a structure that archaeologists, engineers, and historians still regard as a direct challenge to everything we know about ancient, indigenous construction abilities, the Pueblo Bonito, Great Kiva. It is not merely a ceremonial space, it is a physical testament to the vision, knowledge, and extraordinary material handling skills of the ancestral Puebloans, a civilization that used no wheels, no metal tools, no draft animals, and no modern cement. And yet, they created an enormous, balanced, enduring structure capable of resisting the harsh environmental shifts of the desert for millennia. If the ancestral Puebloans had no wheels, no metal tools, and no draft animals, how do you think they transported massive timber beams and built the Great Kiva in the middle of the Chaco Desert? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your theory might offer an entirely new perspective. The Great Kiva at Pueblo Bonito is a circular subterranean ceremonial chamber more than 15 meters in diameter, with thick walls and a roof once supported by a massive wooden beam system covered with compacted materials, forming a stable dome. Upon entering, one immediately recognizes the complex ritual layout, the sipapu, symbolizing the portal to the underworld. Stone benches running around the circumference, intended for offerings or religious symbols, and niches, wooden sockets, and support points deliberately placed to maintain structural balance, acoustics, and lighting. Yet what makes this Great Kiva exceptional is not its ritual geometry, but the technical feat achieved under overwhelmingly adverse conditions. To begin with, the desert environment of Chaco Canyon is far from ideal for building any large structure. Extreme day-night temperature swings cause stone to expand and contract constantly. Strong winds carry fine sand that erodes any exposed surface. Rainfall is scarce, but violent when it occurs, often causing floods, erosion, and foundational instability. A subterranean structure, such as a Great Kiva, requires a stable foundation, high compression resistance in the walls, and sophisticated moisture control conditions far beyond what the Puebloans seemingly possessed. Yet somehow, they calculated how to choose the right site, how to dig deeply without collapsing the walls, and most impressively, how to arrange sandstone blocks so that the walls could support the roof while resisting lateral earth pressure. One of the greatest mysteries lies in the roofing technique. With such a wide diameter, any ancient builder would face the challenge of distributing weight to prevent sagging or collapse. The Puebloans used long wooden beams transported from forests between 40 and 80 kilometers away to construct the load-bearing framework. This means they dragged, carried, or otherwise transported these beams across terrain with no proper roads. With no draft animals, no wheeled vehicles, and no metal reinforcement delivering each beam to the canyon was an extraordinary achievement that remains unexplained. Some theories suggest teams of people taking shifts. Others propose binding rolling techniques or using winter snow to reduce friction. Whatever the method, the immense quantities of timber required for the roof demonstrate complex community organization, coordination, and determination. After acquiring the timber, the Puebloans cut and shaped sandstone slabs to assemble the walls. The precision and flatness of these stones indicate a highly advanced stoneworking skill set. Using only stone and bone tools, they created clean-cut surfaces and consistent block sizes. The walls were built using a dual-layer technique, two thin outer stone walls filled with a mixture of rubble and earth. This acted as insulation and shock absorption, stabilizing the entire structure. Remarkably, this technique functions much like modern double-wall construction, yet it emerged more than 1,000 years ago without influence from metal-using civilizations. The foundation of this Great Kiva is equally impressive. Archaeological studies show multiple compacted layers, rubble, sand, clay, and even ash. Ash absorbs moisture and prevents decay. Sand and rubble distribute weight, reduce vibration, and prevent sinking. The builders clearly understood the geological conditions, the seasonal moisture variations, and the compression patterns of desert soil. This level of insight likely came from generations of observation and experimentation, astonishing modern researchers who note that such knowledge is typically associated with literate, technologically advanced societies. The Great Kiva's construction becomes even more astonishing when examining its longevity. Despite centuries of climatic fluctuation, long droughts, powerful storms, natural erosion, large sections of the structure remain stable. The stone walls have not toppled, the niches remain intact, and the foundation has held strong for over 1,000 years. This leads experts to ask, did the Puebloans simply build to last, or did they possess a sophisticated understanding of physics, materials, and environmental behavior that modern science has not fully understood? The absence of a writing system, yet successful transmission of architectural knowledge across generations, is itself a marvel. Beyond technical brilliance, the Great Kiva embodies spiritual meaning. The Puebloans believed the human world was connected to the ancestral underworld through the Sipapu, and the Kiva acted as the conduit for this connection. The circular subterranean dim and resonant chamber was designed to enhance ritual experience. Interestingly, these sacred elements also support structural stability. Round walls distribute force more evenly. A sunken space maintains temperature, and a low roof reduces strain. The blending of religious symbolism with physical necessity produced a structure that is both spiritually powerful and architecturally masterful. Adding to the mystery are the artifacts discovered inside Great Kivas. Seashells from the Pacific coast, turquoise from distant mountains, rare bird feathers, and intricate ritual objects indicate a far-reaching trade network. These items likely served as ceremonial offerings, suggesting that Pueblo Bonito functioned as a regional spiritual center for communities across the American Southwest. A major ceremonial center requires an appropriately grand ritual space, and the Great Kiva stands as a material symbol of that authority. Yet the greatest mystery may be the disappearance of the Chaco culture. Around the 12th century, Pueblo Bonito and the entire canyon were abandoned. There is no evidence of major warfare or internal collapse within the Kiva. Everything seems to end abruptly. Some theories point to climate change and water scarcity. Others to the weakening of the religious political networks that held society together, still others to internal conflict or natural disaster. But none of these theories are definitive. The Great Kiva, once the ritual heart of Pueblo Bonito, was left behind as a reminder that even monumental constructions built with extraordinary skill cannot escape the forces of time and societal transformation. Today, archaeologists and engineers continue to investigate the Great Kiva and repeatedly encounter unanswered questions. How did ancient builders cut stone so precisely? How did they transport massive timbers across the desert? How did they calculate load distribution without written mathematics? How did a non-literate society develop such systematic construction knowledge? These questions turn the Great Kiva into more than a ruin. It is a scientific challenge still testing the limits of our understanding. The Pueblo Bonito Great Kiva is not merely a sacred structure in the desert. It is a testament to human intellect in the harshest conditions, a physical legacy of a vanished civilization whose influence endures. Most importantly, it reminds us that the greatest technological secrets are not always found in metal machinery or writing, but in observation, perseverance, and the ability to harmonize spirit, nature, and engineering skills the ancient builders mastered long before the modern world emerged. The Clava Cairns is one of the most enigmatic Bronze Age burial complexes in Scotland, located near Inverness, and surviving for more than 3 millennia, while continuing to challenge every attempt at interpretation by modern archaeology. Stepping into this area feels as if time has stopped preserving the pristine arrangement of stone circles, circular cairns, and deliberately placed large stones. Researchers have determined that this complex dates to around 2500 BCE, belonging to the same era as many of Europe's megalithic monuments. However, unlike the widely known Stonehenge, the Clava Cairns carry multiple layers of mystery surrounding their structure, purpose, and especially their surprisingly advanced construction techniques. If archaeologists still cannot explain the construction techniques of the Clava Cairns, which possibility do you think is more reasonable, that ancient knowledge has been lost, or that there is still an unknown factor we have yet to uncover? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What makes the Clava Cairns stand out at first sight is the layout of the cairn's circular stone mounds, accompanied by an outer ring of standing stones, forming a nearly perfect circular arrangement. Many of the stones, weighing several tons, were stacked using a technique that has allowed the entire structure to stand firm for thousands of years without any binding material. The precision in balancing, distributing weight, and selecting stones raises an important question: how were ancient people able to create such a sophisticated construction when they did not possess wheels, mechanical lifting systems, or draft animals? After decades of study, archaeologists discovered that the entrances of the passage tombs at the Clava Cairns align with the sunset of the winter solstice, revealing an impressive understanding of astronomy by ancient builders. Large and small standing stones were placed according to specific intentions to guide sunlight into the passage, creating a mystical illumination that occurs only during a few days of winter. This has led to theories suggesting that the Clava Cairns were not simply burial sites, but also ceremonial centers linked to the solar cycle and the concepts of life and death. During winter solstice, sunset sunlight penetrating deep into the tomb evokes a symbolic rebirth of light within darkness. Yet the greatest mystery, also the one that draws the most attention, is the construction technique of the ancient builders at the Clava Cairns, which appears far beyond what humans of the Bronze Age were thought capable of. The large stones were transported from several different sources and placed precisely in correct positions and orientations to form complete circular mounds. There is no evidence of wheels nor any trace indicating the use of draft animals. While some believe the stones were dragged or rolled on wooden logs, the rugged terrain of the Scottish Highlands makes this hypothesis unconvincing. How then did they move the stones to the site? Modern experimental archaeology, attempting to recreate the construction process, has shown that arranging each stone would have required deep knowledge of mechanics and weight distribution. The ancient builders seem to understand how to choose stones suited for specific locations, larger stones for the outer layers to ensure durability, and smaller stones inside to reduce overall weight. However, the accuracy of these stone circles still astonishes archaeologists. Many cairns were built to nearly perfect proportions, with consistent diameters and optimal stone angles to bear weight over time. Another mystery lies in how the cobbled roofs inside the passage tombs were constructed. These roofs were formed by stacking stones inward to create a truncated cone shape, producing structural stability without mortar. Although corbelling is known in other ancient cultures, the precision and endurance seen at the Clava cairns surviving more than 3 millennia surpass expectations for a non-literate society without advanced metal tools. Some scholars speculate that Bronze Age engineers at the Clava cairns possessed inherited knowledge related to observing natural forces, understanding gravity distribution, and reading the natural properties of local stones. Others suggest they selected stones based on density and physical characteristics, harder stones for the outer walls and lighter stones inside. But this still does not explain how they transported stones across many kilometers of forested hills. There are no traces of transportation routes or staging areas near the cairns. The mystery deepens with evidence that the stone circles were not only accurately positioned, but also arranged by height shorter stones in the south and taller stones in the north, creating unusual lighting and visual effects during specific times of the year. Whether this was ritualistic intent or a structural innovation remains unknown, but it was clearly not random. Alongside the architectural mysteries, the Clava cairns are also intertwined with Celtic legends and metaphysical beliefs. Ancient people believed that stone circles were gateways to the world of ancestors or spirits. The circular layout and standing stones evoke ideas of reincarnation and the balance between light and darkness, life and death. Although not supported by archaeological evidence, the uncanny harmony between the structure and its natural surroundings makes these legends feel strangely plausible. Some stones at the site appear to change color depending on the season, especially near the winter solstice. Many visitors describe the stones as glowing or becoming warmer in tone when sunlight enters the passage. Whether this is a natural phenomenon, a deliberate choice of stone material, or simply a visual effect created by the structure remains unclear. Despite the many surrounding mysteries, what makes the Clava cairns one of Europe's most distinctive archaeological sites is the harmony between ancient scientific reasoning and spiritual symbolism. The complex stands not only as evidence of advanced prehistoric engineering, but also as a monument to humanity's deep connection with the sky, the sun, and the cyclical nature of life. The astronomical alignments, ritual purposes, and color-shifting stones all contribute to a mysterious narrative spanning more than 3 millennia. But the greatest unanswered question remains: how did ancient people construct the Clava cairns? Without wheels, without draft animals, without advanced metal tools, they built a complex so precise that it surpasses even some medieval engineering. This makes the Clava cairns not merely an archaeological site, but a testament to the extraordinary capabilities and intellect of prehistoric humans. It forces us to wonder whether our understanding of ancient technological history still has gaps waiting to be uncovered. And it is within those gaps that the Clava Cairns continues to inspire research, debate, and endless curiosity. Amid the arid desert landscape of Schornlurfe, where modern civilization has only begun to touch in recent generations, lies a prehistoric system of sites that is shaking humanity's entire understanding of history. This is the Tas Tapela megalithic culture, a massive complex of 12 sites spread across more than 200 square kilometers, including Göbekli Tepe, Karahan Tepe, Habetsuvan Tepe, Sefer Tepe, Sayburç, and many others. Each site represents a fragment of a civilization that existed 12,000 years ago, an era when humans were believed to still wander as hunter-gatherers without agriculture, without metals, without the wheel, without pottery. And this is precisely what makes Tas Tapela the greatest archaeological mystery of the 21st century. No one imagined that people living in such a primitive world could erect stone monuments, weighing tens of tons, carve them with sophisticated detail, arrange them into complex ritual structures, and develop an abstract symbolic system thousands of years ahead of its time. Tas Tapela does not merely challenge history, it challenges our understanding of the intellectual evolution of humankind itself. What do you think truly motivated those ancient hunter-gatherer communities to build such a massive and sophisticated megalithic complex like Tas Tapela? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. One of the first astonishing observations is the presence of T-shaped stone pillars, standing 3 to 6 meters tall and weighing 10 to 20 tons. They appear at all Tas Tapela sites as though they represent a form of writing, a religious symbol, or even a sacred language. Many pillars feature carved hands belts and garments, suggesting they may embody anthropomorphic beings of ancient belief systems. Some theories suggest they represent giant ancestors. Others propose they symbolize deities with no defined physical form. What is even more astonishing is the sharp clarity of the animal carvings: lions, foxes, snakes, aurochs, insects, and even mythical creatures. To carve such fine details into hard limestone, ancient people must have possessed extremely sharp tools. Yet during the pre-pottery Neolithic period, there was no metal. This leads to an unavoidable question: what technology did they use? Could stone tools of that era truly achieve such precision? Archaeologists speculate that they perhaps mastered a method of stone polishing unknown to us, or a percussion technique that exceeded the limits of modern assumptions. But this is only the visible surface of a much larger enigma. The most shocking aspect is the construction technology, the primary reason Tas Tapela is compared to a Stonehenge 7,000 years older. If Stonehenge is astonishing in its own right, Tas Tapela goes far beyond. It is older, more intricate, larger in scale, and built by communities that did not yet know agriculture or animal husbandry, meaning no draft animals, no wheeled carts, no metal tools for shaping stone, and certainly no mechanical lifting devices. How then did they cut, transport, and erect stone pillars weighing tens of tons? This is the question at the heart of the most intense archaeological debates today. The quarrying process at Tas Tapela required an astonishing degree of knowledge. First, they needed to identify suitable limestone, detach it from bedrock with primitive tools, and transport it across rough terrain to construction areas. Some pillars at Göbekli Tepe stand 6 meters tall and are so massive that 20 adults linking arms could barely encircle them. When specialists examine the surfaces, they find uniformly polished planes from top to bottom. some so flat that sunlight reflects off them, as if they had been finely sanded. Certain pillars are carved with such artistic precision that even modern craftsmen using metal tools would struggle to replicate them. The straight edges, smooth curves, and refined surfaces force researchers to rethink everything they assumed about Stone Age craftsmanship. But the greatest puzzle lies in the transportation and raising of these pillars. Without wheels, workers had to drag multi-ton blocks by hand. Some theories propose wooden rollers, though no definitive evidence exists. Other theories suggest sand or water-based sledging to reduce friction. Yet these remain speculations. Even more baffling is how they raised the pillars into deep foundation pits. The T-shape, with a broad head and narrow body, creates an unstable center of gravity. To stand them upright, ancient builders had to dig deep sockets, adjust angles, precisely brace stones on both sides, and push the pillars upright using sheer manpower. The structures then needed reinforcement to withstand thousands of years of erosion storms and seismic activity, and astonishingly, they still stand today. Tas Tepler reveals that prehistoric construction was far from primitive. It required a highly organized labor system with specialized teams, quarry workers, transport teams, carvers, erection teams, and ritual designers. Yet there were no cities, no states, no formal ruling class. What force could bind hundreds, even thousands of people together to build such monumental, non-utilitarian structures? The answer that makes the most sense is religion. A belief powerful enough to persuade scattered hunter-gatherer groups to gather and build vast stone monuments for spiritual purposes rather than material gain. Tas Tepler is therefore seen as the cradle of organized religion, even predating agriculture. In other words, religion created settlement, not the other way around. Another baffling mystery is that Göbekli Tepe was intentionally buried. It did not collapse naturally. It was not covered by random sedimentation. People of the era deliberately filled each enclosure with thousands of tons of soil and debris. Why would a society bury its most important sacred center? Did they abandon an old belief system? Did a catastrophic event occur? Or was this a ritual closure, marking the end of a spiritual age? What exactly ended the Tas Tepler era? Environmental changes, conflict, or ideological transformation? Other sites, such as Harbetsuvan Tepe and Sefer Tepe, also show signs of artificial burial. No one can explain why an entire civilization would seal away its own heritage. Some archaeologists believe this reflects a deep societal or religious transformation. Perhaps the builders left the region entirely or shifted to a new ceremonial system. Among all Tas Tepler sites, Karahan Tepe may be the most enigmatic. The discovery of a subterranean ritual chamber stunned archaeologists. It is an elliptical structure carved below ground level, lined with anthropomorphic pillars arranged in a circle, and at the far end, a human head sculpture protrudes from the wall as if silently observing the rites. No one knows the chamber's purpose. Some propose an initiation ritual. Others suggest a symbolic rebirth ceremony. But all remains speculative. With no writings, no inscriptions, and no documented traditions, the chamber's true meaning stays hidden. All we have is the silence of stone and the hollow eyes carved 12,000 years ago. Many scholars now believe Tas Tepler marks humanity's transition from small mobile bands to complex social structures. Large gatherings, labor specialization, and the formation of organized religious systems laid the foundation for agriculture. When rituals demanded significant time and manpower, stable food supplies became necessary. This eventually led to the domestication of plants and animals. Thus, Tas Tepala may indeed represent the origin of organized society, the first time humans thought collectively as a unified community with shared beliefs and goals beyond mere survival. Looking at the entire complex, Tas Tepala is more than an archaeological site. It is a challenge to our understanding of human cognition. It blurs the boundary between primitive and civilized. It suggests that humanity's spiritual and intellectual development may have occurred thousands of years earlier than assumed. And above all, it forces us to reflect on ourselves, showing that sometimes the greatest achievements come not from advanced technology, but from belief in tension and the human desire to reach toward the sacred. Tas Tepala is the ancestral Stonehenge, a version 7,000 years older, more intricate, more mysterious, and a gateway into a past we have yet to fully decipher. Amid the arid desert of Nazca, where rain rarely touches the ground for years on end, lies one of the most mysterious hydraulic constructions in human history, the ancient Cantalark aqueduct system. To many, these are merely strange stone spirals winding gracefully across sun-scorched earth. But to archaeologists, they represent a monumental question mark, a testament to engineering capabilities far beyond what a civilization without writing, without advanced metal tools, without the wheel, should logically have been able to achieve. Cantalark is not merely a water-carrying structure. It is the technical manifesto of the Nazca people, an unresolved enigma, and perhaps one of the rare examples of engineering ahead of its time in all of ancient history. In your opinion, what allowed the Nazca people, a civilization without writing or advanced metal tools, to build such an advanced and timeless hydraulic system? Like the Cantalark aqueducts, share your thoughts in the comments below. The Puquios, the local name for the Nazca aqueducts, appears as enormous spiral openings leading down to deep underground water channels. These spirals are not merely symbolic, they serve critical technical functions, allowing people to walk down into the shafts to access and maintain the tunnels while creating strong airflow that pulls cool air into the underground channels, increasing natural pressure and enabling the water to flow steadily outward. Most astonishingly, the entire system operates without any mechanical tools, relying solely on natural forces, precise digging angles, pebblestone construction, and aerodynamic effects that even modern engineers are only beginning to fully understand. The Nazca people lived in one of the driest regions in South America, yet they maintained stable agriculture for many centuries. This could only have been possible if they possessed an extremely advanced hydraulic engineering system, one far beyond what historical accounts typically attribute to their civilization. The Puquios have functioned continuously for thousands of years with almost no severe structural damage. Water from underground springs in the Andes travels through tunnels stretching dozens of kilometers, remaining stable even today, nearly 1,500 years later, flowing reliably through the dry season. This durability forces archaeologists to ask, how could a civilization without steel, without compasses, without modern surveying tools, have created a system both precise and enduring? The first perplexing issue is the precision of directional digging. The tunnels must align perfectly with the underground aquifers at the base of the Andes. A deviation of just a few degrees would prevent the water from ever reaching its destination. Without modern deep earth detection tools or geological mapping, how did the Nazca determine the exact location of these aquifers? Some theories propose that they relied on keen terrain observation, natural flow patterns, or even an oral tradition of knowledge now lost. Yet even with these explanations, the accuracy required to pinpoint depth, direction, and flow exceeds what most contemporary civilizations could achieve. Another mystery lies in the construction materials. The tunnels and spiral shafts are lined with carefully selected, rounded pebbles, creating smooth surfaces that allow water to flow efficiently while preventing collapse. The stones are not bound by mortar yet, interlock in a way that resists ground pressure. More than a millennium later, most structures remain intact, showing no significant subsidence. The large spirals, some spanning dozens of meters in diameter, maintain perfect gradients and act as massive wind shafts, pulling cool air downward. This reflects not just building skill, but a deep understanding of air circulation knowledge the Nazca could not have stumbled upon by accident. Focusing on the system's advanced engineering, many modern engineers who have studied Cantalok acknowledge that constructing a tunnel stretching dozens of kilometers through hard soil and desert sands requires extraordinary technical planning. Without steel supports, without excavation machinery, without laser alignment tools, the Nazca tunnels still fulfill all criteria of an efficient hydraulic system: ideal gradient, consistent tunnel width, stable airflow, and exceptional prevention of water evaporation. Some puquillos even employ a natural form of the Venturi effect, where air is pulled through the spirals, creating pressure differentials that push water farther along the channels. This proves that the Nazca were not merely digging tunnels. They possessed a sophisticated understanding of aerodynamics and hydrodynamics. When observing the Cantalok spirals, many researchers note their resemblance to spiral motifs in the Nazca lines, the vast geoglyphs, whose function remains controversial. Could the spiral structures of the puquillos be linked not only to technical purposes, but also to Nazca spiritual symbolism? The aqueduct system seems to merge engineering with spirituality science, with ritual adding another layer of mystery to its purpose. Some scholars suggest that maintaining continuous water flow was not only vital for agriculture, but also connected to rain-calling ceremonies, divine beliefs, and the community's desire to preserve life in a harsh environment. Instead of relying solely on ritual to ask for rain, the Nazca used engineering to secure water, a profound step beyond symbolic prayer. The greatest mystery lies in the scope of knowledge behind the puquillos. Cantalok is not a single canal, but a network of dozens of tunnels, many of which remain only partially studied. With no written records, no inscriptions describing construction methods, yet with structural consistency throughout, it is clear the Nazca possessed a standardized engineering protocol passed through generations. This raises a deeper question: where did this knowledge originate? Was it the result of centuries of trial and error, or the inherited legacy of an even older civilization that vanished, leaving the Nazca as its final inheritors? Today, through three-dimensional modeling, engineers have discovered that the puquillos operate using principles that modern hydraulic science calls stable, low-pressure water channels, concepts independently understood by Roman, Persian, and even ancient Chinese engineers. Yet the Nazca achieved similar functionality without any of the technological resources available to those cultures. Many scholars have called the puquillos a masterpiece of engineering genius, even one of the most advanced natural hydraulic systems of the pre-Columbian world. Comparisons often arise. The Nazca puquillos resemble the Persian Qanat system, a renowned ancient method of irrigation. However, engineers find that puquillos show greater adaptability and more stable water flow under extreme climatic stress. This has led some researchers to argue that Nazca engineering may have developed independently and in certain aspects even surpassed the Qanat, a civilization without large cities, without monumental pyramids, yet capable of creating a hydraulic system that astonishes modern science, this is the profound paradox of Cantalok. From a historical perspective, the Puquillos represent not only craftsmanship, but also a visionary ecological philosophy. The Nazca understood that their survival depended on water, and to endure, they could not wait for the rare rains of the desert. They carved their own path to water. They dug deep into the earth, integrating nature into their engineering design, creating a perennial water source. This ecological engineering mindset would not become widespread globally until the 21st century. Today, as one descends the spiral stone steps into a Puquillo, cool air still rises from the darkness below, like the breath of a vanished civilization, whose intellect continues to speak through stone and wind. Cantalok stands as proof that humanity does not need metal technology or modern machines to create eternal wonders. All that is required is deep insight into nature, patience with the earth, and the ability to transform harshness into advantage. And it is precisely this that makes Cantalok one of the most remarkable technical mysteries of the ancient world, a reminder that knowledge does not always reside in books, but lives on in timeless structures that still operate silently beneath the desert sun. Amid the rugged limestone mountains of Sicily, Italy lies an ancient site that forces both archaeologists and history enthusiasts to pause and acknowledge that certain chapters of humanity's past still stretch far beyond our understanding. This is Pantalica, a vast valley where more than 5,000 rock-cut tombs were carved directly into towering cliffs extending across the deep gorges of Anapo and Calcinara. Seen from afar, Pantalica resembles a fortress of the dead, a silent stone city built and then abandoned thousands of years ago. No voices remain, no written documents survive, only stone and the dark voids of tomb entrances staring back at modern visitors as they walk through this forgotten landscape. When you look at the mysterious landscape of Pantalica, with thousands of rock-cut tombs clinging to vertical cliffs like a city of the dead, what do you think motivated ancient people to choose such a harsh and inaccessible place for a monument of this scale? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Pantalica is believed to be the greatest surviving legacy of the Cycles, a pre-Hellenic culture that lived in Sicily during the late Bronze Age. Paradoxically, this civilization left behind almost no written records, symbols, or systems of script. Thus, everything known today about them is inferred from pottery, scattered artifacts, and most prominently, the monumental necropolis of Pantalica. Although UNESCO recognized the site as a World Heritage Treasure, Pantalica remains a challenging enigma. To understand this complex construction, we must first imagine how ancient people thought, worked, and organized society at a level that sometimes surpasses the framework conventional history assumes for them. What makes Pantalica truly astonishing is not only the sheer number of tombs, but their positions. Many tombs are situated on steep vertical cliffs, tens or even nearly 100 meters high. Even modern individuals equipped with climbing ropes, helmets, and safety gear would find it intimidating to reach such locations. Yet the ancient Cycles, without iron tools, specialized equipment, or metal scaffolding, somehow accessed these cliffs and carved thousands of rock chambers with remarkable precision and consistency. The first question that arises for archaeologists is simple yet perplexing: where did they stand while carving? Did they lower themselves from above with ropes? Did they erect scaffolding from below? Or did they create temporary ledges that time has completely erased? No theory fully satisfies the evidence. The tools available to the Cycles consisted mainly of bronze chisels, stone hammers, and some wooden implements. Bronze is far softer than the dense limestone of the region, and Pantalica's limestone is not easily fractured or shaped. Yet the tombs here have smooth surfaces, round or rectangular entrances with near-perfect proportions and consistent sizes across numerous locations, demonstrating a level of craftsmanship far beyond the primitive standard usually associated with the Bronze Age. Geological studies reveal that the rock hardness would make bronze carving extremely laborious, slow, and damaging to tools. Still, the Sicels carved not dozens or hundreds, but thousands of tombs. The repeated geometric uniformity indicates not only advanced technique, but also reliable measurement skills and long-term planning. Some scholars propose that the Sicels used a heating and cooling technique, heating the rock with fire and cooling it rapidly with water to induce cracking. However, if this method were widely used, traces of burning or heat deformation would appear on the tomb walls. Yet most tombs show none. Another theory suggests the Sicels erected tall wooden scaffolds attached to the cliffs, but such scaffolds would require anchor holes or structural marks, again completely absent today. Time may erase many things, but erasing an entire technical system is difficult. This lack of evidence deepens the mystery. If they did not use scaffolding ropes or thermal fracturing, then how exactly did they do it? Modern surveys show that the distribution of tombs is far from random. Many clusters form perfectly horizontal lines, extremely difficult to achieve, on irregular cliffs, while others curve into arcs or align toward the sun. Certain tomb entrances appear to be designed to catch sunlight at specific moments of the year, which is unlikely to be coincidence. This suggests that the Sicels possessed simple but accurate astronomical knowledge, applying it deliberately to their funerary architecture. If true, Pantalica was not merely a burial site, it was a ceremonial landscape where the living expressed their beliefs in the afterlife through intentional arrangements of light and shadow. The most surprising aspect is that the largest and most complex tombs are located in the most difficult-to-reach spots. Normally, ancient builders would choose accessible areas for large structures to reduce risk and effort. Yet Pantalica appears to follow the opposite logic. The more dangerous the location, the larger the tomb. This leads to a bold interpretation. Perhaps the higher and more perilous the position, the more sacred it was considered. Or perhaps the Sicels possessed some construction method we have yet to imagine, one that enabled them to work in places where even modern climbers hesitate. Whatever the truth, it is clear that their technical capabilities have been underestimated for centuries. Additionally, the overwhelming number of tombs has convinced archaeologists that Pantalica could not have been created by a small, loosely organized community. To carve more than 5,000 rock tombs, the Sicels must have had a large structured labor force that maintained this work across many generations. This implies that Sicel society was far more complex than ancient records describe. They likely had skilled stonemasons, overseers, and a strong religious system that sustained the spiritual significance of the site. But Pantalica is more than tombs. The site also includes an actoron, a large stone structure resembling a palace or temple, along with numerous ritual caves containing traces of fire and animal bones. The design of an actoron echoes Mycenaean architecture, leading many experts to speculate that the Sicels had cultural exchanges with the ancient Greek world. If true, this suggests that Pantalica was not an isolated community, but part of a broader network of trade and intellectual influence. Why did the Sicels choose this formidable valley for constructing such a monumental funerary complex, a place difficult to access transport materials, to inhabit, or maintain? Some researchers argue that the twin gorges formed a sacred natural boundary like a gateway to the realm of the dead. Others believe the elevated tombs protected bodies from enemies or animals. Yet no theory satisfactorily explains all aspects of the site. After centuries of activity, the Cycles abandoned Pantalica. There is no evidence of major warfare destruction or natural disaster. They simply vanished from the region quietly, just as they had appeared. This makes Pantalica not only a technical mystery, but also a mystery of human destiny. Today, as visitors walk through Pantalica, they see more than a necropolis. They encounter a challenge from the past, a reminder that history may have overlooked entire chapters, that ancient intelligence may surpass the limits modern people have long imposed on it, and that countless techniques may have been buried by time. Thousands of rock-cut tombs still remain, each one a silent question mark. And the greatest question of all is this: how did ancient people, armed only with bronze tools, carve into sheer cliff faces with a precision that astonishes even the modern world? In the heart of Jerusalem, a place that has witnessed countless mighty empires rise and fall, stands an ancient structure layered with mysteries that have never been fully deciphered: the Pool of Siloam Steps. When these stone steps were excavated in the year 2004, they immediately captured the attention of archaeologists. Due to their scale, architectural form, and craftsmanship far exceeding what one might expect from an ancient structure. After thousands of years buried underground, many of the steps still retained sharp edges, smooth surfaces, and astonishing precision, revealing a level of construction more advanced than what most historical records suggest. The steps descending into the water were so wide that they could accommodate hundreds of people at once, leading researchers to believe that the Pool of Siloam was once a significant ritual center. Pilgrims of the Second Temple period may have used it for purification before ascending to the sacred precinct of Temple Mount, making it an inseparable part of ancient religious life. Yet even when considering it as a ritual installation, many questions remain unanswered. Why was a ritual pool built on such a large scale? Why does no ancient record describe its full layout or function? And most intriguingly, what compelled ancient builders to construct such an enormous, secret, and incredibly sophisticated water system, one that surpasses what modern archaeology can easily explain? All these questions lead us to the greatest enigma of the Pool of Siloam Steps, the subterranean water system. A hydraulic masterpiece connected directly to Hezekiah's tunnel, a passage carved through bedrock, over half a kilometer long. It is considered one of the most astonishing engineering feats of the biblical era. According to historical accounts, Hezekiah's tunnel was built more than 2,700 years ago, and what makes it truly extraordinary is not just its length or the hardness of the Jerusalem stone, but the near-perfect precision with which two teams starting from opposite ends met exactly in the middle without the aid of modern instruments. Given the technology of that era, determining direction inside a mountain was extremely difficult. A deviation of just a few degrees would have caused the two teams to miss each other entirely, rendering the entire project a failure. Yet they succeeded, and this near-perfect accuracy continues to astonish modern engineers and archaeologists. Studies show that the tunnel does not follow a straight line. It twists and curves, suggesting that the workers were actively listening for the sounds of the opposite team to adjust their direction. This reveals that the construction required not only skill, but remarkable acoustic sensitivity, teamwork, and deep understanding of geological structure. In addition, the tunnel's slope was engineered so precisely that water from the Gihon spring could flow smoothly, not too fast, not too slow, ensuring a constant supply of clean water to the pool of Siloam, which was essential for a ritual installation. Even more impressive, the water system was not simply a straight channel. Surveys show multiple widened chambers functioning as pressure-regulating spaces, helping stabilize water flow and maintain purity. Some researchers even speculate that these chambers might have served ritual or priestly functions, though no definitive evidence has yet confirmed this bold idea. Along the tunnel walls, archaeologists have found faint carvings, possibly markers for workers or hints of a unique measurement system now lost to history. These markings are so eroded that they cannot be deciphered, and without comparative examples, the original construction method remains largely erased from the historical record. These silent traces deepen the mystery, as though the ancient builders intentionally left behind a puzzle for future generations. The water flowing from Hezekiah's tunnel into the pool of Siloam was remarkably clean. In a time when maintaining a reliable water supply was extremely difficult, especially in a city frequently threatened by siege, this system was vital for survival. Many scholars believe the project was not solely religious, but also a strategic defense measure designed to protect Jerusalem's population. A hidden water source that could not easily be sabotaged became a major military advantage. This dual-purpose ritual and survival leads even more layers to the system's mystery. Still, the greatest question remains unanswered. How did ancient builders achieve such technical sophistication? What methods did they use to orient themselves within the mountain? What did they understand about hydrodynamics? Did they have measuring tools long since lost? Or did they inherit a technological tradition far more advanced than historical narratives suggest? The only certainty is that we still do not know the full story. The mystery deepens when considering the architectural context surrounding the Pool of Siloam. The site was connected to the ancient pilgrimage road leading toward the Temple Mount. Only a small portion has been excavated. The rest remains buried under modern neighborhoods. Archaeologists are certain that many structures still lie hidden beneath Jerusalem's soil, ritual rooms, storage areas, auxiliary channels, perhaps even secret chambers tied to religious or political purposes. This also explains why the Pool of Siloam vanished from history for more than 15 centuries. Warfare, shifting empires, and continual reconstruction buried the pool entirely. Without maps or clear descriptions, no one knew its precise location until construction workers discovered it by accident during a pipeline project in 2004. This mysterious disappearance makes the Pool of Siloam Steps feel like a gateway into a hidden Jerusalem where ancient knowledge of engineering, religion, and strategy has been preserved in darkness. Its rediscovery may only be the beginning. What remains buried could transform our understanding of the biblical world. The underground water system, with Hezekiah's tunnel at its core, is the strongest evidence that ancient Jerusalem possessed a technological sophistication far exceeding what modern people have long assumed. The Pool of Siloam Steps is not merely an archaeological site. It is a symbol of an era, a testament to the ingenuity and wisdom of ancient builders, and a place where religion, engineering, and history converge into an unresolved mystery. The subterranean water system is the soul of the structure, a hidden wonder that challenges the limits of our knowledge. Until the unexcavated areas are explored, until the faded markings are deciphered, or until new tunnel segments are discovered, the mystery of the Pool of Siloam will continue to live on as a story half real, half legendary in the heart of Jerusalem. How do you think the ancient builders were able to construct the underground water system with the technology of their time? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. The Akapana Pyramid, located within the ancient complex of Tiwanaku at nearly 4,000 meters above sea level on the Altiplano Plateau, has long been considered one of the most enigmatic structures of the ancient Andean civilization. Although at first glance, Akapana appears to be nothing more than a heavily eroded mound of stone, archaeological stratigraphic studies quickly revealed that it is not a natural hill, but a massive, man-made, terraced pyramid. Strangely, no one truly knows what it looked like when it was intact, whether it was once fully completed or was an unfinished project abandoned for unknown reasons. Ancient records are lost. Local legends are too vague, and this leaves Akapana standing as a missing piece in the historical puzzle of South America. Excavation traces indicate that the pyramid was constructed with 7 tiers, topped by what may once have been a large ceremonial platform. These layers were interconnected by stairways, subterranean chambers, and most intriguingly, by an intricate hydraulic network that very few civilizations of the time could have engineered. The stone water channels were fitted with precise gradients, their flow directions meticulously calculated so that water could circulate through multiple levels, creating a kind of sacred flow with ritual or astronomical significance that remains unexplained to this day. What astonished archaeologists most was the internal hydraulic core, where stone conduits were carved, bent split, and installed with astonishing precision so exact that even a slight misalignment would have rendered the entire system non-functional. Achieving such engineering at a harsh altitude, like the Altiplano, where oxygen is low, temperatures are frigid, and resources are scarce, only deepens the mystery. Yet none of this is the most perplexing aspect. What truly elevates Akapana into one of archaeology's greatest enigmas is the way massive stone blocks weighing tens of tons were transported, cut, and fitted together with unbelievable precision, far beyond what conventional understanding suggests the Tiwanaku civilization could achieve over 1,000 years ago. The dark andesite blocks, weighing between 40 and 60 tons, were brought from quarries located dozens of kilometers away across treacherous terrain and without the aid of wheels or suitable draft animals. Modern science still has no definitive answer for how they were transported. These stones are not only heavy, but also display knife-sharp cuts and perfectly true right angles that are difficult to replicate even with modern tools. Some surfaces are polished so flat that they reflect light-raising questions about whether the Tiwanaku possessed advanced stone finishing technologies that have not survived in any record. Most astonishing are the interlocking joints, deep grooves, complex key slots designed with such precision that the stones lock together like gigantic Lego pieces. A single miscalculation would have prevented the faces from fitting at all. This suggests that the builders possessed extremely refined measurement and fabrication techniques far beyond what is assumed for a civilization lacking a fully developed writing system. The precision at Akapana has been compared to Machu Picchu, Sacsayhuaman, and even Egyptian monuments, yet its engineering style remains distinct. T-shaped channels, trapezoidal cuts, multi-axis, interlocking faces, all of which imply a sophisticated understanding of mechanical forces and load distribution. Some researchers propose that these stones were cast using a hypothetical stone softening technique, a controversial idea that persists because of the unusually smooth surfaces. Others speculate that the Tiwanaku might have possessed metal tools as hard as steel, though none have been found. Still others propose vibration-based methods, thermal expansion, or abrasive mineral sands. However, all remain theories. Regardless of the method, the final result continues to baffle modern experts. The stones are fitted so tightly that not even a razor blade can be inserted between them. This level of precision is not merely aesthetic, it enhances structural stability, earthquake resistance, and durability, allowing the structure to survive millennia of weathering, looting, and destruction. Many researchers believe that the use of interlocking joinery at Akapana indicates it was not merely a ceremonial site, but a repository of lost knowledge about megalithic engineering. During the colonial era, the Spanish dismantled parts of Akapana to reuse its stones for church construction, making reconstruction efforts extremely challenging. Yet even in its ruined state, the remaining fragments are enough to show that the building techniques employed here far exceeded expectations. Close inspection of removed blocks reveals that the cuts and joints remain crisp, as if they were carved only decades ago rather than over a millennium. What deepens the mystery further is the unusual combination of techniques: mechanical interlocks, hydraulic channels, and possible astronomical alignment. This suggests that Akapana was not a simple monument, but a multi-layered system, integrating various forms of knowledge. Excavations around the site have revealed evidence of human and animal sacrifices, gold artifacts, and ritual offerings, indicating that this was once the supreme ceremonial center of Tiwanaku. But why would a ritual structure require such advanced stone assembly techniques? Why build a water-conducting pyramid with near-machine-level precision? Was Akapana intended for astronomical observation, religious ceremony, scientific function, or all three simultaneously? None of these questions have definitive answers. Some imaginative scholars believe Akapana may represent a symbolic sacred mountain, the dwelling place of gods, or a ritual device mimicking the flow of cosmic waters. Fringe theories even propose that the construction techniques exceed what Tiwanaku could have developed alone, hinting at knowledge from an earlier, now-vanished civilization. While not accepted by mainstream archaeology, these notions reflect the profound mystery that Akapana continues to evoke. Although these hypotheses remain unverified, they highlight how extraordinarily enigmatic Akapana is. The more archaeologists excavate and examine it, the more they uncover details of precision, complexity, and craftsmanship that seem to defy historical assumptions. Combining all these elements, Akapana stands as one of the most challenging megalithic structures for modern archaeology to explain: majestic yet perplexing, technologically sophisticated yet heavily damaged, filled with traces of advanced knowledge yet devoid of any surviving documentation. And so, to this day, Akapana endures an immense stone riddle, weighing tens of tons, challenging every effort to decipher it. Do you think the Tiwanaku civilization possessed some kind of lost technology or advanced technique? Or were these achievements simply the result of exceptional human skill and ingenuity? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Across the barren desert plains of Middle Egypt, where towering cliffs enclose vast valleys of sand, and where the morning sunlight sweeps across layers of golden rock like a veil of sacred silk, there exists a strange system of monumental stone stelae that continues to puzzle archaeologists, historians, and enthusiasts of ancient mysteries. These are the Amana boundary stelae, massive inscriptions carved directly into the mountainsides to mark the borders of Akhetaten, the heretical capital founded by Pharaoh Akhenaten during one of the most radical religious revolutions in ancient Egyptian history. For millennia, Egyptians had been accustomed to building temples, pyramids, obelisks, and sphinxes to express royal power, but no other dynasty ever created a vast network of boundary markers stretching for kilometers, cut into natural rock and inscribed not only with territorial declarations, but also with divine revelations from Aten about the chosen site of an entirely new city. The scale, placement, purpose, and messages of these stelae make them the most distinctive remains of the Amarna period, the era in which Akhenaten attempted to overturn the religious traditions built over thousands of years and install Aten, the singular sun disk, as the supreme deity. Yet upon approaching each stela, what astonishes observers is not merely the endless lines of hieroglyphs describing Aten, nor the supposed divine proclamations from the sun god, nor even the carved images of Akhenaten Nefertiti and their daughters, standing beneath rays of light that end in tiny hands. The most shocking aspect is the locations of the stelae, places nearly impossible for humans to access. Some lie at the base of vertical cliffs, where desert winds scream like forgotten voices. Others are perched at heights that challenge even modern archaeologists equipped with safety gear. Some stand deep in scorching valleys where the heat can burn exposed skin within minutes. Others hang on the edges of ravines where a slight misstep could send one plunging into the abyss. These extremely hazardous placements are neither accidental nor convenient. Instead, they represent a profound mystery that remains unsolved despite centuries of study. Why did Akhenaten erect stelae in places humans were not meant to reach? Did these positions carry spiritual meanings surpassing traditional Egyptian beliefs, or were they connected to royal rituals so secretive that only the king and his inner circle were permitted to witness them? To understand their significance, one must first recognize that the inscriptions describe Akhenaten receiving direct revelation from Aten. The king recounts that Aten personally indicated the site for the new city, and he was commanded to carve its sacred boundaries exactly as the god instructed. If these were ordinary borders, Akhenaten could easily have erected simple markers or guard posts as other regions of Egypt did. Instead, he chose to carve them into the largest, most inaccessible cliffs, as though the harshness of the terrain itself formed part of the sacred message. Archaeologists suggest that the perilous positions were intended to ensure that the stelae could not be tampered with or destroyed, standing eternally as a divine covenant between Aten and the king. But this raises a deeper question. Why was Akhenaten so afraid the stelae might be destroyed? Did he know that his religious revolution was too radical for the people, and did he therefore create unbreakable monuments to force future generations to uphold his divine oath? One controversial yet compelling theory argues that the stelae's hazardous positions were chosen based on astronomical alignment. Observations from key stelae along the eastern cliffs reveal that the sun rises perfectly between two mountain peaks during important times of the year. This has led scholars to propose that Akhetaten was not merely a city for Aten worship, but a giant solar observatory. The stelae, carefully positioned, may mark horizon points where solar events occur, thereby linking Aten's symbol with the cosmic mechanics of the universe. If this theory is correct, the stelae occupy perilous locations not because they were difficult to reach, but because those were the only points from which the intended celestial alignments could be observed, alignments Akhenaten believed were dictated by Aten himself. An even more intriguing hypothesis suggests that the stelae were used as sites for secret royal rituals, especially those symbolizing the union between Aten and the pharaoh. Some inscriptions describe Akhenaten performing offerings at the base of the cliffs, where sunlight reflected dramatically against the stone, creating the illusion of a radiant gateway to the divine realm. Symbolic scholars propose that the treacherous landscape itself served as a threshold between human and divine space. Anyone entering the area had to endure hardship, mirroring the pharaoh's journey through the desert into Aten's sacred domain, a spiritual trial Akhenaten often referenced in his texts. If this interpretation is correct, the stelae marked not only geographical boundaries, but also spiritual boundaries, separating the mundane world from the divine sphere. Another perspective argues that Akhenaten chose dangerous locations simply to create boundaries that ordinary people could not easily cross. Akhenaten was not a typical city, but the center of a new monotheistic cult, where the power of Amun's priesthood and traditional religious institutions had been eliminated. Akhenaten may have sought to isolate the city from the political influence of the old temples, using the stele's remote positions as a form of passive enforcement. The boundaries existed, but only those with permission could approach or comprehend their significance. Amid a turbulent religious revolution, such placement might have served both spiritual and administrative purposes. The mystery deepens after Akhenaten's death, when later pharaohs, particularly Tutankhamun, Horemheb, and the early Ramesside kings, restored traditional religion. They launched a campaign of damnatio memoriae, erasing Akhenaten's memory. His name was chiseled out, his images and those of Nefertiti defaced, and the entire city of Akhenaten abandoned. Yet remarkably, many of the boundary stelae survived, especially those in perilous locations. Was this preservation intentional? Did Akhenaten foresee attempts to erase him and therefore place the stelae where they would be protected by the landscape itself? Whether by foresight or coincidence, the desert became their guardian, allowing modern scholars to study these nearly intact relics and unravel fragments of Amarna's lost history. The mystery of the Amarna boundary stelae lies not only in their inscriptions or their religious purpose, but most profoundly in their locations. These choices were neither casual nor purely functional. They reflect a complex blend of political intent, astronomical symbolism, secret ritual practice, and Akhenaten's obsession with building a pure city detached from traditional Egyptian identity. The stelae stand motionless in the desert as testimony not only to a failed revolution, but to a visionary ambition so extreme that it stunned an entire civilization. And today, as sunlight continues to strike the cliffs, just as it did 4,000 years ago, the Amarna boundary stelae still pose the question. No one has definitively answered what was Akhenaten truly trying to communicate by carving his divine oath in such astonishingly perilous places. In your opinion, what was the true reason Akhenaten deliberately chose such dangerously inaccessible locations to carve his oath to Aten into the cliffs? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Let's discuss. The Banpo Neolithic Village, one of the most famous and mysterious Neolithic archaeological sites in human history, has long stood as a symbol of the profound question regarding the true level of knowledge possessed by ancient people 6 millennia ago. When archaeologists excavated the area, they did not merely uncover traces of an early agricultural community. They also discovered compelling evidence indicating that the Banpo inhabitants possessed a level of understanding far beyond what modern humans once assumed. Located on the outskirts of the city of Xi'an and belonging to the Yangshao culture dating back roughly 6,000 years, the site reveals far more than a simple primitive settlement. It represents an organized social complex with clear production capabilities, deliberate planning, and above all, an astonishingly advanced ceramic technology that defies expectations of the Neolithic age. The inhabitants of Banpo had early on developed an agricultural system centered around millet, domesticated animals, stored food supplies, and maintained seasonal living patterns. The advancement of agriculture led them to settle permanently, eventually giving rise to a complex village structure. Surveys show that the spatial distribution of the village was remarkably well organized. Residential areas were located at the center, surrounded by semi-subterranean houses that stayed warm in winter and cool in summer. The pottery workshops were positioned separately to avoid the risks of fire and smoke, and the cemetery lay farther away to accommodate burial rituals and prevent contamination of the living area. The entire village was encircled by a deep defensive moat, forming a rudimentary yet effective protective barrier. All of these elements demonstrate a level of planning and urban thinking that even many later civilizations struggled to achieve. Yet while the planning and social organization of Banpo are impressive, what fascinates archaeologists and the world the most is its extraordinary ceramic production technology, still considered the greatest mystery of the entire site. The pottery unearthed at Banpo shows craftsmanship and quality far beyond what one would expect from a Neolithic community. When examined by the naked eye, the pottery displays an unbelievably uniform thinness, with no inconsistent thickness, no warping, and no cracking, despite having been buried underground for thousands of years. The surfaces are decorated with patterns in vibrant shades of red and black, amazingly well preserved. This remarkable color fastness raises a crucial question. How did people 6,000 years ago create pigments that adhered so firmly and retained their vibrancy for millennia? Some researchers believe that Banpo artisans had achieved exceptionally precise temperature control during firing. Certain pottery fragments show signs of double firing, a rare technique for the Neolithic period, suggesting that Banpo people not only knew how to use fire, but also understood how clay minerals and heat interacted. This leads to the hypothesis that Banpo inhabitants accumulated knowledge over many generations through observation, experimentation, and systematic teaching far more advanced than the typical assumptions about prehistoric societies. And yet many mysteries still remain unsolved. When archaeologists analyzed the clay composition of Banpo pottery, they found an astonishing level of uniformity and purity, almost as if the material had gone through a filtration or refinement process. This is perplexing, as such techniques are typically associated with industrial societies, not Neolithic villages. The smoothness of the pottery's surfaces and the precision of their shapes have prompted experts to wonder, did the Banpo people possess special tools we have not yet discovered, or did they have specialized knowledge that has since been lost? The most perplexing aspect, however, is the system of patterns and symbols found on the pottery. These are not random decorations, but instead follow repeated and structured patterns, triangles, eyes, zigzags, and abstract symbols. Some motifs appear so frequently that many have questioned whether they represent a proto-writing system. If these symbols indeed functioned as a form of communication, it would drastically alter our understanding of the intellectual capabilities of Neolithic humans. The pottery items also vary significantly in function. Some were used for food storage, others served as burial jars for children, and many appear clearly designed for ritual or symbolic purposes. This suggests that Banpo pottery was not merely utilitarian, but also served as a medium to express cultural identity, spiritual beliefs, and social roles. This idea is strengthened by burial evidence. Many female graves contain richer grave goods than those of males, suggesting that Banpo may have been a matrilineal society where women held central economic and social positions. Archaeologists also discovered large storage buildings and semi-subterranean structures used for long-term food preservation, further indicating that Banpo inhabitants possessed advanced planning abilities and an organized approach to resource management. Taken together, these findings reveal that Banpo was not a simple primitive settlement, but a sophisticated social ecosystem, one with specialized labor such as pottery artisans, social stratification, burial rituals, artistic expression, and technological innovation far ahead of its time. Yet none of this overshadows the greatest question of all: how did people living 6,000 years ago create pottery so thin, light, durable, and vividly decorated with such enigmatic symbols? This question makes Banpo one of the most captivating archaeological puzzles about the intelligence of our ancestors. Were the Banpo artisans relying solely on experiential trial and error? Did they possess a deeper understanding of materials than previously believed? Or could there be ancient knowledge now lost that once existed beyond the framework we currently understand? Even today, after countless studies, the Banpo ceramic technology remains one of the clearest indicators that human history still contains vast, unexplored gaps. Banpo continues to challenge our assumptions about prehistoric creativity and forces us to reconsider whether modern civilization is truly the beginning of technological sophistication or simply another branch of a far older, far deeper stream of human knowledge. With all the mysteries surrounding Banpo's advanced planning, artistic expression, and especially its remarkably sophisticated ceramic technology, what do you think enabled people 6,000 years ago to achieve such an extraordinary level of craftsmanship? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Amid the vast red deserts of Jordan, where the Nabateans once built the magnificent wonder of Petra, there exists a group of peculiar structures that have puzzled archaeologists for centuries: the Petra Djinn blocks. They stand silently and imposingly at the entrances of sacred valleys, isolated from the refined architectural masterpieces such as the treasury or the monastery. And it is precisely this absolute simplicity, these massive box-shaped blocks with no doors, no entrances, and no decorative elements, that makes them one of the most mysterious structures of the Nabatean civilization. From scarce archaeological records and local legends, they were given a name that is both mystical and eerie: Djinn blocks, meaning the stone blocks of spirits. What do you think about the strange appearance of the Djinn blocks in the Petra Desert? Are they merely ritual structures, or could they be remnants of a lost purpose and an advanced technique forgotten by time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. At first glance, the Djinn blocks resemble enormous cube-like forms, 6 to 8 meters high, meticulously carved from the red sandstone cliffs. The first striking feature is their total isolation. They are not part of any architectural complex, nor connected to any temple or settlement. This raises a critical question: if they were not used for habitation or conventional worship, then what was their original purpose? Researchers from the 19th century onward have proposed countless theories, from tombs and memorial markers to ceremonial boundary stones or enlarged beetles representing the supreme deity of the Nabateans. But all remain speculative, as no inscriptions are carved upon them. No interior chambers or ritual objects have been found, and no archaeological evidence confirms who built them first or why they chose to create such unusual structures. The name Djinn comes from the local Arab belief that these blocks were the dwelling places of supernatural entities, beings invisible to humans, existing between the earthly world and the divine realm. This association is not baseless, for the absolute silence of their architecture, no entrances, no signs of human activity makes the Jinn blocks extremely difficult to interpret. For desert communities, these colossal solitary stones standing against nature were seen as proof of the existence of the spirit world. And this sense of ambiguity has further obscured the historical origins of the Jinn blocks. But the greatest mystery surpassing questions of purpose or function is the monolithic stone-cutting technique the Nabateans used to create these structures. If Petra's other monuments, such as the treasury or the royal tombs, display artistic craftsmanship in their ornate facades, then the Jinn blocks astonish observers with their flatness, precision, and simplicity to the point of absurdity. A colossal sandstone mass, several meters high and wide, was carved into a single, unified geometric block with uniformly flat surfaces and nearly perfect right angles. This stands in complete contrast to the tools archaeologists believe the Nabateans possessed: crude iron tools, stone chisels, hammers, none of which should have produced such geometric precision. Closer inspection reveals that the surfaces of the Jinn blocks do not show the deep chisel marks typical of ancient quarrying. Instead, they consist of vast plains, many square meters wide, smooth enough that modern scholars cannot help but ask, how could the Nabateans achieve such surfaces without advanced metal technology? Some measurements reveal minimal deviation between edges with certain blocks, nearly matching modern construction standards. This becomes even more perplexing given that Petra is known for architecture carved into cliffs rather than freestanding stone constructions like those in Egypt or Greece. For this reason, Jinn blocks may be considered large-scale technical experiments, as though the Nabateans were testing the limits of sculpting mountains into shapes. From this point arises a controversial theory. The Jinn blocks may predate Petra, meaning they could have been created by a pre-Nabatean culture and later repurposed or reinterpreted by the Nabateans as ritual markers. Deep weathering patterns on their surfaces, along with stylistic differences from other Petra structures, strengthen the suspicion that Jinn blocks may be far older than traditional archaeology suggests. Yet no artifacts or carbon samples have been found in or around the blocks to provide precise dating, leaving them as an enigma buried within the flow of time. The monolithic carving technique of the Jinn blocks is even more impressive when considering the sheer volume of rock that had to be removed. To create a cube-like structure 6 to 8 meters high, the ancients would have had to extract hundreds of tons of sandstone while living in a harsh desert environment where resources were scarce and labor was precious. Yet the existence of these blocks contradicts logic. They are not tombs, not meeting halls, and appear to have no practical utility whatsoever. The act of expending enormous labor to carve a perfect monolithic block that would never be used has led many scholars to believe the original purpose of the Jinn blocks was likely sacred, ritualistic, or spiritual. This may explain why the ancients were willing to invest such extraordinary effort. Some studies propose that the Jinn blocks may be enlarged versions of Betel's sacred stones, representing the supreme Nabatean deity Dushara. In Nabatean religion, deities were not typically depicted in human form, like those in Greek or Roman traditions. Instead, they manifested through stone symbols, embodying cosmic power, endurance, and eternal presence. If the Jinn blocks were indeed giant beetles, they would represent a unique expression of Nabatean spirituality, a philosophy that viewed stone not merely as material, but as the dwelling place of divine energy. However, this theory remains unproven, as there are no inscriptions or symbols confirming it. Another remarkable detail is that although Petra contains hundreds of structures, only a few Jinn blocks exist. yet they are always positioned in significant places near the entrances to sacred valleys, beside ceremonial pathways, or at thresholds leading to religious centers. This has led many researchers to believe the Jinn blocks served as sacred boundary markers symbolizing the transition from the mundane world to divine space. For ancient travelers passing by, these immense silent monoliths may have been a symbolic act of entering the holy realm of Petra. As time goes on, archaeological studies of the Jinn blocks do not clarify their origins. Instead, they generate more questions. Each new observation, whether tool marks, geometric measurements, or spatial relationships, deepens the mystery of their construction purpose and spiritual meaning. For documentary filmmakers, the Jinn blocks embody the idea of ancient silence, a structure that offers no clues yet stands defiantly challenging every attempt to decode it. Today, standing before a Jinn block, one cannot help but feel small. Those immense, flat surfaces, carved thousands of years ago with techniques no one fully understands, reveal a level of material mastery not recorded in conventional history. Their very existence transforms Petra from merely an ancient city into a testament to a forgotten frontier of human innovation. And so the Jinn blocks remain an eternal mystery, stark yet mystical, challenging yet captivating, so simple in appearance, yet so complex that archaeologists cannot stop questioning them. The Standard of Ur, discovered in the Royal Cemetery of Ur, is one of the most enigmatic masterpieces of the Sumerian civilization, long regarded as the cradle of the world's earliest urban society. Over more than 4 millennia, this wooden box, inlaid with stones and shells, still gleams with mysterious colors, provoking countless unanswered questions. Its features have been catalogued, analyzed, and interpreted by archaeologists across generations. Yet what continues to astonish and divide researchers most is the exquisite inlay technique that far surpasses our understanding of human craftsmanship at the time. Although its wooden structure has deteriorated significantly over time, the inlaid pieces maintain such precision that one cannot help but wonder, how exactly did the Sumerians achieve this, with what tools, and why did they create an object with such an extraordinary degree of meticulous detail? This question remains the starting point for an endless journey of investigation. What do you think enabled the Sumerians to create an inlay masterpiece so refined that it surpasses the technological capabilities we normally associate with their era? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. The first thing to recognize is that the materials used to create the Standard of Ur were not common or easy to acquire. The white shells were collected from the Gulf, the red stone from Iran or the Arabian Peninsula, and most remarkably, lapis lazuli, the rare blue stone that could only have come from Afghanistan, thousands of kilometers away from Mesopotamia. The fact that the Sumerians possessed such quantities of lapis lazuli for the creation of a symbolic masterpiece indicates that their trade networks were not only vast, but also stable and highly organized. Many scholars argue that the mere transportation of these materials was already an impressive achievement, but even more astonishing is their ability to process, cut, and fit each tiny piece of stone into a composition of unbelievable precision. A close inspection reveals that the stones were cut into tiny squares, rectangles, or trapezoids, fitted together like an ancient form of pixels. Every outline of a figure, every detail of clothing, every wheel of a chariot is rendered clearly, with no signs of misalignment or uneven placement, even by a matter of millimeters. This has led to the theory that the Sumerians possessed measuring tools and stone-cutting techniques far more advanced than archaeologists previously imagined. The technique used to glue and secure the inlays is another unresolved puzzle. The Sumerians did not have modern organic adhesives, so what did they use to attach hundreds of tiny pieces onto a wooden frame? Some researchers believe they used heated bitumen, natural asphalt, pressing the stones into place. However, bitumen becomes brittle when cooled and does not easily create a smooth enough surface to hold micro-sized inlays stable for thousands of years. Yet the standard of Ur remains intact, its layout almost fully preserved. This raises further questions. Was bitumen truly the only material used? Or did the Sumerians invent another compound, a super-durable adhesive that has since been lost to history? These clues from ancient technology continue to challenge modern scientists. Beyond structural precision, what surprises researchers most is the accuracy and intentionality of the color arrangement. The blue of lapis lazuli, the white of shell, and the red of carnelian were arranged deliberately to create vibrant contrasts and guide the viewer's eye across the figures as though watching a filmed sequence. This is more than an artwork. It resembles an ancient form of visual storytelling, a storyboard illustrating the rhythm of Sumerian life, war, and royal authority. The color selection demonstrates that Sumerian artisans possessed not only exceptional manual skill, but also a highly developed aesthetic sensibility, far beyond simple decoration. The blue stone borders highlight figures with remarkable clarity, creating a sense of depth that even later Egyptian and Greek works struggle to match. This is why the standard of Ur is often compared to a storytelling jewel where every detail is optimized for communication. A deeper examination reveals that even the smallest details, folds of clothing, reins of horses, strands of a musician's hair, or expressions of prisoners were crafted from extremely tiny pieces, uniform to the point of resembling mass-produced components. Yet in that era, everything was created by hand. No industrial saw blades, no mechanical stone cutters, no magnifying lenses. This raises a critical question. Did the Sumerians possess stone-working abilities far beyond our current understanding, or did they develop a highly specialized division of labor in which inlay artisans operated with strict technical standards? Some scholars go further, suggesting that such precision implies that the Sumerians understood how to manipulate pressure on stone, adjusting hardness, brittleness, and thickness to cut micro-pieces without fracturing the internal structure. If so, the artisans of Ur were true masters of materials science in the ancient world. But this technical brilliance is only one layer of its sophistication. The entire artifact is rich in symbolic meaning, demonstrating an advanced level of abstract thought. The use of the same inlay technique to create two opposing scenes, one of chaotic war, the other of prosperous peace, reveals how Sumerian artisans encoded their worldview into the physical lines of the object itself. Each piece was chosen to convey emotion, social rank, or ritual solemnity. This level of refinement makes the standard of Ur a living document of ancient Sumerian life, how their armies were organized, how they celebrated victory, and how they visually represented authority and royal reverence. Despite this precision, the question of its function deepens the enigma. Experiments by the British Museum show that even modern artisans with high-quality tools struggle to replicate the uniformity of micro-inlays, especially on slightly uneven wooden surfaces. This reinforces the theory that the Sumerians developed a sophisticated system of standardization for controlling stone size, angles, and thickness. Some scholars describe this as a precursor to micro-mosaic engineering, a technique assumed to belong to much later European traditions but evidently perfected in Mesopotamia thousands of years earlier. The division into 3 horizontal registers further illustrates meticulous planning. The bottom shows commoners, the middle depicts military activity, and the top features the king and elite. Maintaining proportionality, clarity, and geometric straightness across these levels required exceptional visual design skill, something even modern artists acknowledge. Yet the greatest mystery remains its purpose. It is not a battle standard, not a container, not a ritual banner. Why would the Sumerians invest such rare materials and advanced craftsmanship into an object with no clear function? Some propose it was used in ceremonies of royal investiture. Others believe it was a stone-written chronicle, a visual record meant to transmit history across generations. Still others suggest it was a funerary emblem, symbolizing the eternal authority of the individual it accompanied into the tomb. None of these theories is definitive, and the ambiguity only reinforces the idea that its craftsmanship represents a lost body of knowledge. Across the millennia, as we study this artifact, we see not only astonishing craftsmanship, but also the artistic, philosophical, and social vision of the Sumerians encoded into every tiny stone fragment. This inlay technique is not merely the product of skilled hands, but the culmination of accumulated knowledge, labor organization, trade networks, and symbolic thinking. It reminds us that ancient civilizations were far from primitive. They possessed abilities and insights that surpass many modern assumptions. And it is precisely this almost unbelievable refinement of inlay technique that has made the Standard of Ur one of the most captivating mysteries of the ancient world, one that humanity may continue exploring for centuries to come. Deep within the dense rainforests of Peten, where the ancient complex of Tikal rises majestically with its towering limestone pyramids, exists a peculiar category of artifacts that only a truly sophisticated civilization could create and preserve. For millennia, the Tikal wooden lintels, wooden beams, crafted, carved, and placed above temple entrances as an inseparable component of sacred Maya architecture. When speaking of Tikal, people often envision the soaring structures such as Temple 1 and Temple 2. Yet, it is the sapodilla wooden lintels, extremely hard pieces of timber that have survived more than 13 centuries without rotting in a harsh tropical climate that continuously puzzle archaeologists. How did the Maya craft and conserve an organic material so susceptible to decay? These questions open an ocean of mysteries where technique, ritual symbolism, and ancient knowledge blend into an enigma still far from fully understood. Why do you think the Maya were able to make sapodilla wooden lintels survive for more than 13 centuries in the jungles of Tikal without rotting? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. Sapodilla wood, the primary material used to create these lintels, is renowned for its density, weight, and difficulty to carve. Modern artisans attempting reconstructions often admit that the persistent skill and tools the ancient Maya possessed were extraordinary. Yet what makes the lintels truly exceptional is not only the material itself, but also their extremely inaccessible placement. Many examples sit more than 40 meters high, positioned atop temple summits, or at the entrances of sanctuaries where only priests, nobles, and the highest-ranking individuals could enter. Transporting massive wooden beams to such heights without wheels or draft animals, relying solely on human strength along steep stairways, was already astonishing. Carving intricate, proportionally perfect images into them under dim or shifting light conditions only further demonstrates the Maya's superior craftsmanship. On many lintels, the Maya inscribed important dates using their long count calendar system allowing modern archaeologists to accurately determine the reigns of rulers such as Jasor Chan Kawil I. Thus, a lintel is not merely an architectural component. It becomes a wooden chronicle, recounting essential moments of political power, warfare sacrifice, and ritual communication with the divine. Seen from this perspective, lintels embody a fusion of material and symbolism, of function and meaning, of architecture and religion, a combination rarely found in other ancient civilizations. Indeed, the Maya never considered them just beams. They were sacred thresholds marking the boundary between the mortal realm and the supernatural world. Yet all the features above durability, placement chronology, are still not the greatest mystery. The deepest enigma, the one that astonishes researchers whenever they examine surviving lintels, lies in the colors and pigment traces that remain visible on the wooden surfaces after more than a millennium. How, in an environment of extreme humidity, rampant insects, fluctuating temperatures, and without any modern preservation methods, have these pigments endured? Some lintels still display deep blood-red patches, jade-green streaks symbolizing rebirth and royal authority, or mysterious black areas associated with darkness, the underworld, and ancestral worship. Under microscopic analysis, scientists discovered pigments absent from known Maya palettes, making their origins increasingly difficult to trace. Some theories propose that the Maya used rare natural minerals mixed with tree sap or long-lasting organic compounds. Others suggest they treated the wooden surface with heat or natural chemicals to lock pigments deep within the grain, something even modern restoration techniques struggle to reproduce. Particularly intriguing are lintels, whose colors appear remarkably vivid, almost freshly painted, despite their 1,000-year age. This leads to a profound question. Did the Maya understand their materials so well on a chemical level that they could create pigments with multi-century durability? Or are there lost secrets that archaeology has yet to uncover? These colors were not merely decorative. They formed the language of ritual. Red symbolized blood life sacrifice and royal authority. Jade green represented the sky water and renewal. Black symbolized the underworld. The persistence of these colors suggests that the lintels were once central to sacred ceremonies, where kings performed bloodletting rituals to communicate with ancestors and invoke deities. The survival of these pigments is not just a physical phenomenon. It is a bridge that allows us to interpret the symbolic meaning embedded in every carved stroke. The mystery deepens with the discovery of traces of unknown liquids, possibly remnants of ritual offerings. Some scholars hypothesize mixtures of resin and minerals meant to create polish or visual depth when illuminated by fire or sunlight. This introduces a fascinating possibility. The lintels may have been part of a multi-sensory ritual experience, light, shadow, scent, liquid, and color merging into a surreal atmosphere witnessed only by the priestly elite. Another intriguing clue is evidence indicating that some lintels may have been fully painted, not merely accented along the carved reliefs. This suggests that the Maya envisioned them as living panels, where color enveloped the entire wooden surface, and carvings emerged like apparitions from another realm. If this interpretation is correct, what remains today is only a faint shadow of the vibrant splendor these lintels once possessed during Tikal's golden age. Beyond pigments, the origin of the wood itself poses another unanswered question. Sapodiala is not abundant around Tikal, meaning the Maya transported tons of timber through dense jungle terrain using only human labor. Selecting the appropriate trees, preparing the wood, transporting it, carving it, and painting it required a seamless chain of specialized techniques. Remarkably, All this effort was dedicated to objects placed in sacred spaces that ordinary citizens never saw. This underscores the profound ritual significance of the lintels in royal and religious ceremonies. Ultimately examining the depth of each carving, each pigment layer, and each surviving trace, researchers recognize that the lintels are not merely crafted objects. They are spiritual records of a civilization with a profound understanding of nature, materials, symbolism, and time. By surviving into the present day, they challenge the natural laws of decay and compel modern observers to ask, did the Maya possess knowledge of preservation, natural chemistry, and ritual artistry far beyond what we have imagined, or do the answers lie buried forever beneath the forests of Tikal? The Erlitou bronze civilization stands as one of the most enigmatic and foundational chapters in the early history of East Asia, a civilization that emerged, suddenly flourished rapidly, and disappeared just as quietly, leaving behind no written records, yet an astonishing array of material achievements. Spanning roughly from 1900 to 1500 BCE, Erlitou is often associated with the legendary Xia dynasty, though archaeological evidence has never definitively confirmed this connection. What remains certain is that Erlitou was no primitive settlement, but rather the earliest known urban and state-level society of ancient China, featuring palatial architecture, a structured social hierarchy, sophisticated craft specialization, extensive trade networks, and most importantly, an extraordinarily advanced bronze casting technology that would ignite the era now known as China's Bronze Age. If Erlitou's metallurgical skills were truly far more advanced than those of other civilizations of the same era, do you think they invented these techniques on their own, learned them from another culture, or that there was some unknown origin we have yet to uncover? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The story of Erlitou is not merely one of ruins and artifacts, but of a civilization whose silence in the historical record has paradoxically amplified its mystery. Without inscriptions or royal chronicles, its people speak only through the objects they left behind. And among these objects, bronze stands as the voice that resonates the loudest. The bronze workshops of Erlitou reveal a technological leap so sudden and refined that it raises questions still debated by scholars today. How did a civilization with no recorded writing develop precise, large-scale bronze casting techniques that rivaled and in some cases exceeded contemporary cultures? How did they master the control of fire metallurgy and mold design to produce vessels, weapons, and ritual artifacts of astonishing complexity? And why did this technological brilliance emerge so powerfully in one place and one moment in time? At the heart of Erlitou's urban center lies the evidence of these metallurgical marvels: large bronze foundries, specialized tool sets, standardized molds, and slag deposits that demonstrate repeated, intensive production. These are not the remnants of isolated craftsmen, but the industrial footprint of a centralized, state-organized system of bronze production, unlike anything previously seen in the region. The scale of Erlitou's bronze workshops suggests political coordination. Raw materials had to be sourced over long distances, copper and tin proportions had to be carefully controlled, and skilled artisans worked within a shared technical tradition. This was not experimentation, it was mastery. The sophistication of their bronze ding vessels, ceremonial dew cups, and turquoise inlaid fittings shows a civilization that not only understood metallurgy, but elevated it into an expression of identity and authority. Unlike later dynasties where bronze inscriptions reveal political rituals, Erlitou bronzes lack written text, yet their forms speak volumes. They appear to embody elite power, religious symbolism, and emerging concepts of kingship. These vessels were not everyday tools, but objects of prestige and control, signaling a highly stratified society where the command of bronze equated to the command of power. This central role of bronze at Erlitou marks a turning point in Chinese cultural development, as metallurgy became intertwined with governance ritual and social hierarchy. But the brilliance of Erlitou does not end with metallurgy. The city itself was meticulously planned, its palatial complexes built on rammed earth foundations, connected by wide avenues and surrounded by zones designated for craft production. Workshops for jade carving, turquoise inlay, pottery, and bronze casting were arranged with spatial logic, indicating a governing authority that oversaw industrial organization and resource distribution. The discovery of the turquoise inlaid dragon, composed of hundreds of meticulously carved fragments, showcases the artistic vision of Erlitou craftsmen and hints at a symbolic system that may predate dragon iconography found in later dynasties. This relic alone suggests a ceremonial world in which elite rulers expressed spiritual power through precious materials and elaborate artistic forms. Yet despite the grandeur of their city and the advanced techniques of their metallurgists, the people of Erlitou left behind no inscriptions, no royal burials, and no monuments proclaiming the deeds of their leaders. Their civilization is known entirely through what they built and what they cast. Ironically, this silence has deepened the fascination surrounding them. Why did a culture sophisticated enough to build palaces and control large-scale bronze production not develop, or at least not preserve, written systems of administration? Why do we find no textual records of its rulers or rituals, when later Chinese civilizations placed such emphasis on writing? And perhaps the greatest mystery, what caused the decline of Erlitou around 1500 BCE. Archaeological layers show a gradual reduction in site size and activity rather than sudden destruction. There is little evidence of warfare or large-scale catastrophe. Instead, the civilization seems to fade as the Erligang culture associated with the early Shang dynasty rises in prominence to the east. Did Erlitou collapse politically? Was it absorbed peacefully? Or did shifting trade routes and resource availability undermine its urban system? Some scholars propose that the Shang simply outcompeted Erlitou technologically and militarily, while others argue for a migration of elites or a reconfiguration of regional power. Whatever the cause, the disappearance of Erlitou remains as quiet as its existence. No grand battle, no final inscription, only the slow fading of activity in a once thriving center of innovation. Yet Erlitou's legacy endured. The bronze technologies pioneered here would shape Chinese civilization for over a millennium, influencing ritual systems, artistic traditions, warfare, and political authority from the Shang to the Zhou and beyond. The civilization's emphasis on centralized bronze production became a hallmark of Chinese statehood, where metallurgy was not only a craft, but a symbol of royal legitimacy. Even the layout of Erlitou's palace complexes set architectural precedents for later dynastic capitals. In this way, the nameless civilization stands at the threshold of Chinese history, acting as the silent bridge between myth and archaeology. Ultimately, the Erlitou bronze civilization remains a paradox, immensely advanced, yet undocumented, powerful, yet quietly transient, foundational, yet shrouded in mystery. Its bronze workshops illuminate a society capable of remarkable technological innovation, one that transformed metallurgy into a statecraft and reshaped the trajectory of early East Asian civilization. But its silence, its lack of inscriptions, and its gentle disappearance create an aura of enigma that continues to challenge historians and captivate the imagination. In the molten glow of its ancient furnaces, we glimpse both the technological brilliance of its people and the vast unknowns that still surround them, reminders that even the most influential civilizations can remain in many ways mysterious shadows on the edge of recorded history. Amid the harsh deserts of Turkmenistan, where scorching winds sweep across endless barren valleys, the ruins of Nisa rise like a silent witness of the past, a once mighty city that served as the first power center of the Parthian Empire, now reduced to faint outlines of weathered walls and collapsed structures. As modern archaeology gradually uncovers the layers of earth that have buried it for thousands of years, researchers have discovered that Nisa was not merely an ancient capital, but a site filled with mysteries profound enough to challenge everything we know about early Eastern construction technologies. The findings, ranging from an underground ivory treasury to hybrid East-West architectural styles to cryptic administrative texts, suggest that this city may have held a role far greater than surviving historical records indicate. Yet the most astonishing element, the one scholars struggle to explain, even with extensive scientific analysis, lies in the building materials and construction techniques used by the Parthians. Massive walls, built almost entirely of mud brick, yet capable of surviving more than 2 millennia, defying the destructive forces of desert climate and time. Do you think the Parthians might have possessed a lost construction technology, perhaps even more advanced than what we typically imagine for that era? Share your thoughts in the comments below. From the very first excavations, archaeologists were stunned by the durability of the remaining walls. Mud brick is typically known as a fragile material prone to crumbling under rain-wind and prolonged exposure without maintenance. But in Nisa, these structures have remained standing in defiance of logic, especially the remarkably intact segments thick enough to resemble military fortifications, complete with defensive corner towers. Many mud bricks here display an abnormal internal composition, not only sun-dried in the traditional manner, but also mixed with mysterious additives that harden them almost like stone. Some samples show signs of indirect firing or exposure to intense heat, producing internal bonding still being analyzed by modern science. Even more baffling is the uniformity of the bricks, suggesting that the Parthians possessed specialized molds or a production system capable of mass manufacturing with surprising precision. Modern researchers have attempted to replicate the Nisa mud brick formula using contemporary ancient world techniques from Central Asia and the Middle East, but none have succeeded in achieving the same long-lasting durability found at the site. One theory proposes that the Parthians mixed into the bricks a desert-origin mineral additive capable of activating under extreme climate conditions, causing the material to harden further over time. Other scholars suggest they employed a multi-layer compression technique, each layer of mud compressed in a specific direction, forming a structure similar to its modern concrete equivalent. Each compressed layer may have had different moisture and density levels, allowing the entire wall to function as a single mass rather than separate components. This could explain why cracks caused by earthquakes or weathering fail to spread, as if the walls possessed a natural shock-absorbing elasticity. But the mystery does not lie solely within the bricks themselves. It also lies in the mortar binding them together. Instead of using common adhesives, such as wet mud or gypsum, the Parthians applied a very fine, highly adhesive, and remarkably moisture-resistant mortar. Chemical analysis reveals a mixture of natural gypsum-refined clay and a small percentage of organic compounds, possibly resin or natural glue. What perplexes researchers most is the absolute consistency of the mixture's ratio across the entire site, indicating the existence of a standardized, carefully controlled formula, not merely the result of traditional craftsmanship passed down through generations. With this extraordinary material, Nysa developed an astonishing architectural complex: multi-story buildings, underground storage rooms, wine cellars, reinforced like protective bunkers, and most impressively, a fortified wall system enveloping the entire site. Some walls measure nearly 3 meters thick and up to 10 meters tall in their original state, indicating genuine defensive intent. Building such colossal walls from mud brick required techniques virtually unknown today. Evidence suggests the Parthians used large scaffolding systems, rudimentary yet effective lifting mechanisms, and a layer-by-layer compaction method reminiscent of the earthen pyramid construction techniques used in Middle Kingdom Egypt. This improbable durability raises a crucial question for archaeologists. Why would Nysa, an ancient capital, invest in mud brick structures built to such exceptionally high standards, while stone and fired brick were widely used in other major civilizations? The Parthians appeared to deliberately choose mud brick, transforming it into an almost super material with no direct equivalence. Was this meant to avoid drawing attention? Did it stem from religious beliefs associated with earth-based materials linked to Zoroastrian cosmology? Or had they mastered a now-lost technology, enabling them to create a cheap, yet extremely durable material suitable for quickly establishing a center of power? The deeper one ventures into the site, the clearer it becomes that the construction techniques served not only practical needs, but also symbolic and strategic purposes. The ivory treasury, containing hundreds of intricately carved pieces, was built as securely as a weapons depot. Meanwhile, the wine storage facilities were protected by thick walls and a brilliant ventilation design, raising questions among specialists. Were these vats merely for producing wine, or did they play a role in secret royal rituals? The circular structure at the city's center, a deep pit with reinforced walls, adds further uncertainty. Scholars hesitate to commit to any explanation. Was it an astronomical observatory, a ritual pit, a national ceremonial chamber deliberately concealed by the Parthians? The administrative documents found at Nysa deepen the site's mystery. They record the names of officials unmentioned in other Parthian sources, seals bearing obscure symbols, and lists of offerings or distributions of unusual goods. This has led some researchers to believe that Nysa may not have been merely a political capital, but also a ritual center or even a shadow governmental institution operating parallel to the formal Parthian state. If so, the exceptional durability of its mud brick structures makes perfect sense. They were protecting sacred spaces or confidential treasuries. Regardless of its true purpose, one undeniable fact remains: the mud brick structures of Nysa exceed the technological expectations of their era. Not only have they survived for over 2,000 years, but they also present a challenge to modern understanding. What did the Parthians know that we do not? Lost materials, a secret mortar formula, a unique earth compaction technique, or an entirely different architectural philosophy, one that understood the behavior of soil and exploited it to its fullest potential. Today, walking among the ruins of Nysa evokes not desolation, but awe. Walls that appear simple hold within them a timeless intelligence. tiny cracks reveal a resilience that defies logic, and the city as a whole serves as a reminder that history is not merely what we know, but also what we have yet to understand. Nisa, with its impossibly durable mud brick architecture, remains one of Central Asia's most profound archaeological enigmas, a city emerging from the forgotten shadows of antiquity, awaiting the day when we finally unravel the construction technology its Parthian builders once mastered. The Ain Dara Temple, located in northern Syria, is one of the strangest, most astonishing, and most difficult to explain archaeological phenomena in the Middle East. Every stone slab, every staircase, and especially the giant footprints carved into the basalt floor evoke the sense that something beyond ordinary human understanding once took place here. What made Ain Dara famous across the world was not only its ancient architecture bearing the cultural marks of the Hittite Aramean tradition, but also the two enormous footprints, nearly 1 meter long, at the entrance of the temple, arranged in a way that allows visitors to almost imagine a divine being stepping directly into the sacred interior. These footprints, together with the remarkable similarity between Ain Dara and the biblical description of Solomon's temple, place the site among the most fiercely debated archaeological mysteries of recent decades. If the giant footprints at the Ain Dara temple were truly created using a technique we have never seen before, which ancient civilization do you think possessed such technology, and why do you believe they disappeared? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Upon arriving at Ain Dara, the first thing to strike the eye is the pair of enormous footprints carved onto a black basalt slab at the temple's entrance. Each print is roughly 1 meter long, shaped like a human foot, yet far beyond the proportions of any known human being. The distance between the two prints stretches nearly 3 meters, pointing inward as though a divine figure were stepping into the sanctuary. What makes this extraordinary is that such a form of artistic expression, carving footprints, especially giant ones, was not common in ancient Near Eastern cultures, making these two prints a complete anomaly. Normally, gods were represented as statues or reliefs, not footprints. That Ain Dara chose this method to symbolize divine presence suggests that ancient people intentionally portrayed the descent of a god onto earth, something that could only be expressed through non-human proportions. The second major mystery of Ain Dara lies in the floor plan of the temple, which resembles the Old Testament description of Solomon's temple with striking precision. 3 aligned chambers, a front hall, a main hall, and a Holy of Holies, all built with massive basalt architecture. Ain Dara dates to approximately the 10th to 9th centuries BCE, the same era traditionally associated with the construction of Solomon's temple. This has led many scholars to wonder whether Ain Dara served as an architectural prototype for early Israelite religious structures, or whether both were derived from a broader cultural template shared across the region. Whatever the answer, the similarity is significant enough to place Ain Dara at the center of debates about the true origins of Iron Age sacred architecture in the Levant. But the most overwhelming and technically baffling mystery of Ain Dara, the one that has troubled archaeologists, geologists, and ancient engineering specialists for many years, lies in the technology used to carve the giant footprints into basalt, a rock second only to granite, in hardness and resistance to abrasion. What is astonishing is not only the large scale of the prints, but also their depth, smoothness, and uniform precision. The carved grooves curve naturally perfectly, mimicking the shape of archers' heels and toe joints, as if the ancient artisans had molded the footprints into the rock rather than carved them by hand. Even stranger is that these cuts were made directly into a single slab of basalt, not assembled from smaller pieces, meaning the artisans had to apply high-precision force and control on an extremely hard surface using technology available only in the early Iron Age. Modern workers require carbide steel tools or powered cutting machines to carve basalt effectively. Yet 3,000 years ago, steel had not reached sufficient hardness, and bronze or early iron tools were nearly incapable of carving basalt at such depth and accuracy. This has led to numerous hypotheses. Perhaps ancient craftsmen heated the rock and cooled it rapidly to create micro cracks, or perhaps they used extremely hard stone tools like obsidian. But even with these theories producing two large, smooth, perfectly shaped prints like those at Ain Dara remains far beyond what reenactment studies have been able to achieve using period-accurate tools. Some technical researchers note that the curvature of the interior cuts indicates vertical pressure rather than horizontal scraping, an effect extremely difficult to replicate without vibration tools or high-pressure instruments, neither of which ancient people are known to have possessed. The admiration for this stone carving skill grows even stronger when comparing it with the broader artistic program at Ain Dara carvings of basalt lions, sphinxes, mythological creatures, and intricate symbolic motifs. All of these were carved directly into basalt, no joints, no added blocks. This shows that the stonework mastery at Ain Dara far exceeded regional standards of that era. While many contemporary civilizations worked primarily with limestone or sandstone, Ain Dara's artisans worked confidently with basalt, a material that even modern stonemasons consider unusually difficult. This raises questions not only about their tools, but also about their labor organization, material knowledge, and architectural mathematics. The refined craftsmanship of the basalt footprints has led some scholars to suggest that they were not merely works of art, but sacred ritual markers. Basalt, a stable, long-lasting stone, symbolized the eternal imprint of a deity. If a god had truly entered the temple, these prints would preserve that divine step in the strongest material humans could obtain. This symbolism elevated the sanctity of the temple, making every worshipper feel as though they were following directly in the presence of the divine. Some scholars propose that the footprints may relate to theophany rituals, ceremonies involving the physical manifestation of a god, a tradition found in many ancient cultures, but rarely expressed visually in such a direct and dramatic form. Beyond the footprints, Ain Dara preserves numerous reliefs of winged lions, sphinxes, mythological beings, and symbols of power resembling those of Hittite and Aramean art. This suggests that the temple's builders integrated multiple cultural influences into a cohesive symbolic system, a carved cosmology representing their spiritual worldview. The Holy of Holies shows signs of devotion to a goddess or divine pair associated with fertility, war, and protection. Yet despite these similarities, the overall structure of Ain Dara remains unique enough that it cannot be dismissed as a simple imitation of any single tradition. Perhaps the greatest tragedy is that Ain Dara was severely damaged during conflict in 2018. Walls, reliefs, and even the giant footprints suffered major destruction. Many details that archaeologists were still studying vanished forever. This makes unraveling the mysteries of its basalt carving techniques even more difficult. Previously, researchers could use 3D scanning to measure cut depth angles and tool marks. Now, most original data is gone. The Ain Dara mystery, already perplexing, now resembles a story missing its most crucial pages. Despite the destruction, the Ain Dara temple footprints remain a symbol of timeless mystery. The giant footprints carved into basalt raise not only religious or mythological questions, but also profound technological ones. How did ancient artisans carve so deeply into such a hard material with perfect precision? What tools did they possess that we have not yet discovered, or did they hold material knowledge long since lost? This enigma of ancient stone technology has made Ain Dara one of the clearest reminders that the capabilities of early civilizations may have been far more advanced than we assume today. The Adulis port ruins, located along the Red Sea coast in present-day Eritrea, are the remains of an ancient harbor city that once served as a vital artery in the trade network connecting the Mediterranean, the Middle East, India, and even Southeast Asia. This convergence of cultures, economies, and political powers made Adulis one of the most important port cities of the ancient world. When observing the surviving fragments of stone walls buried under layers of coastal sand, large stone platforms that once functioned as storage facilities, and foreign ceramics originating from various civilizations, one can imagine a bustling commercial hub belonging to the Aksumite Empire. Merchants from Arabia, Rome, Byzantium, Nubia, and India docked at Adulis to trade ivory, gold, frankincense, spices, silk, and countless other valuable goods. Ancient records, including the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, describe Adulis as a strategic waypoint for fleets sailing along the Indian Ocean maritime routes, confirming that it once functioned as a global economic center in the ancient sense. Modern archaeological excavations have revealed an urban structure far more intricate than the simple port one might imagine. Here, researchers uncovered remains of large storage complexes, residential buildings, metalworking workshops, trading plazas, fortified stone quays, and remarkably, a Byzantine-style church, evidence of strong presence or influence from the Mediterranean world. The abundance of foreign artifacts discovered at Adulis, from Roman coins and Byzantine religious emblems to South Arabian pottery and Indian goods, provides strong grounds for archaeologists to believe that the city once served as a meeting point for civilizations separated by thousands of kilometers. This cultural intermixing raises a remarkable question. Who truly controlled Adulis during each phase of its development? Could it have been the center of an unrecorded network of power? Or did the presence of international merchant groups create a semi-autonomous trade city with its own political and operational structure? What confounds scholars even more is that surviving Aksumite inscriptions and texts provide very little detail about Adulis, despite the fact that it was their most important foreign trade harbor. An advanced empire with the Ge'ez writing system, monumental stone architecture, and a sophisticated administrative system would presumably have left behind more extensive documentation of such a strategic city. This absence of records raises troubling questions. Was the history of Adulis lost, concealed, or deliberately erased? Among all the mysteries surrounding Adulis, none sparks more debate than the central question archaeologists have pursued for decades: who destroyed Adulis? The disappearance of the city around the 7th to 8th centuries remains one of the unsolved enigmas of the Horn of Africa. Archaeological evidence reveals buildings that were burned, large areas that collapsed, thick sediment layers covering the harbor zone, and signs of sudden abandonment, as if a catastrophic event occurred in a very short time span. But what was this event, and who caused it? Three major hypotheses have received the most attention, yet none has sufficient evidence for a definitive conclusion. The first claims that the Beja people, a nomadic warrior group living in northeastern Sudan, Eritrea, attacked and destroyed Adulis in a conflict over trade routes. Some medieval texts mention clashes between the Beja and the Axumites, describing them as fierce warriors who controlled mountainous regions. If they truly attacked Adulis, it may have been an act of retaliation or part of a larger ambition to dominate Red Sea trade. However, archaeological proof of a large-scale Beja assault remains vague and inconclusive. The second hypothesis suggests that Adulis was destroyed by South Arabian forces or the Himyarite kingdom, long-standing rivals of Aksum in the competition for dominance over the incense trade routes. Historical records document several wars between Aksum and Himyar, including Aksum's invasion of the Arabian Peninsula. Thus, a retaliatory attack on Adulis to cripple Aksum's economy is entirely plausible. Some burned artifacts and collapsed structures seem consistent with this scenario, yet definitive proof is still lacking. The third hypothesis, more gradual yet equally unsettling, proposes that Adulis fell victim to natural disasters and environmental change, sedimentation that rendered the harbor unusable, earthquakes that damaged infrastructure, and prolonged drought that weakened the Aksumite economy and prompted abandonment. But this theory fails to explain the clear signs of widespread fire and sudden desertion. Finally, the fourth hypothesis, the most intriguing of all, suggests that Adulis was destroyed by an unrecorded power, possibly in a conflict, a massive pirate raid, or an intervention by a foreign force omitted from surviving historical texts. Some scholars speculate that Adulis may have fallen to an international merchant group, attempting to seize control of the trade network only to be wiped out by rivals. Others believe the destruction was tied to major geopolitical shifts in the 7th century Arab Mediterranean world, when newly rising empires reshaped the entire region's balance of power. Whatever the cause, one truth seems certain: the fall of Adulis was not a slow, natural decline, but a sudden and violent event that destabilized the entire area. Ironically, the disappearance of Adulis coincided with the weakening of the Aksumite Empire, preventing any chance of reconstruction. A city that once served as a global commercial hub was erased from the map within a short period, leaving behind silent ruins beneath coastal sands, each stone seeming to guard a story left unfinished. Today, only a small portion of Adulis has been excavated. Most of the city still lies dormant beneath millennia of sediment. Archaeologists believe these buried layers may still conceal many secrets: ancient harbor structures built with advanced engineering, international merchant quarters, trade warehouses filled with foreign goods, and perhaps even evidence of the final conflict that sealed the city's fate. Every excavation uncovers new fragments of the greater picture, yet each discovery raises more questions than answers. And despite its immense archaeological value, the greatest mystery, who destroyed Adulis, continues to challenge all attempts at explanation. Perhaps the truth lies buried in the parts of the city still untouched, or perhaps it has been lost forever. Yet it is precisely this silence that makes Adulis one of the most captivating mysteries of the ancient world, a place where past and present intersect, and where every ruin seems to whisper of a kingdom, a port, and a tragedy concealed by time. After exploring all these mysteries surrounding the rise and disappearance of Adulis, which theory do you find most convincing about who destroyed this ancient port city? Was it the Beja warriors, South Arabian forces, natural disasters, or an unknown power lost to history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. The Walker Mask of Inanna has long been regarded as one of the legendary symbols of the Uruk period, not only because of the surreal beauty of its sculpted face, but also because of the layers of mystery surrounding its existence. Mysteries that have compelled archaeologists, historians, and enthusiasts of the ancient world to confront a question spanning millennia. How could a civilization, living amid muddy plains, lacking hard stone resources, create a masterpiece carved from precious white marble? And by what method did they achieve a level of refinement that astonishes modern observers? When one looks at the mask, the first impression is not merely a story of religion, mythology, or art, but a sense that something lies beyond the boundaries of recorded history, something that does not align with what we believed about human capabilities over 5,000 years ago. Do you think the Sumerians crafted this white marble mask entirely on their own? Or might they have inherited the technique from an even older civilization that has not yet been discovered? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The mask was carved around the year 3100 BCE, during the period when Sumerian civilization was forming the first cities in human history. What makes it extraordinary is not only its age, but the degree of perfection it exhibits, far surpassing technological expectations for a society that had not yet developed hard metal tools like steel. The face possesses almost mathematically perfect proportions: a straight nose, soft cheekbones, finely balanced lips, and deep, contemplative eyes. Yet all these harmonious features are merely the surface. Beneath that beauty lies the story of an exceedingly rare material, so rare that the mask's very existence seems impossible. White marble, the material from which the mask was made, almost does not exist naturally in Mesopotamia. This region was known for clay mud bitumen, sun-dried bricks, and fragile, soft stones, not materials suitable for highly detailed or durable sculpture. The appearance of a large, uniform, smooth, gem-like marble block in Uruk led many researchers to conclude that the stone must have originated far outside Sumer. This implies that the Sumerians transported it from mountainous regions hundreds of kilometers away, possibly Iran, Anatolia, or even more distant highlands. For an ancient society without widespread use of the wheel or specialized carts, transporting such a massive stone across rivers, deserts, and rough terrain was a remarkable feat. But transportation is only the first mystery. A much greater one lies in the question: how did they shape white marble to such a degree of smoothness and precision? The cut marks, curved lines, and polished surfaces of the face reveal extraordinarily advanced techniques, almost as if created using sharp metal tools or modern polishing methods. Some archaeologists believe the Sumerians used bronze-tin alloy tools, but bronze is too soft to achieve such fluid and flawless contours. Others propose that they used quartz sand to grind the stone. Yet this raises further questions. How did they precisely control the pressure without cracking the marble? And more importantly, who possessed the skill capable of executing such work? To honor such a rare material, the Sumerian artist adopted a fully idealized style, creating a divine feminine face, embodying timeless beauty. The features evoke a surreal, serene, yet powerful presence, leading many to believe this represented Inanna, the goddess of love, war, and fertility, the principal deity of Uruk. However, archaeologists have never confirmed this. The mask may instead depict a high-ranking priestess chosen by the gods as an intermediary between realms. Another theory suggests it is an idealized portrait of an actual historical figure. No one can be certain because the statue's body, believed to have been crafted from another material such as precious wood metal or soft stone, has entirely vanished. Meanwhile, the small holes around the forehead and temples indicate that the mask once held wigs made of gold, threads, gemstones, or organic materials. The eyes may have been inlaid with lapis lazuli, the legendary blue stone of Sumer, causing the face to glow beneath torchlight during sacred ceremonies. These details suggest that the marble mask was not merely an aesthetic object, but was designed as the focal point of ritual practice, a vessel through which the Sumerians believed divine presence could manifest. Another mystery is why the statue's body completely disappeared. Some theories propose that invading forces intentionally destroyed it to diminish Uruk's spiritual power. Others believe that the priesthood dismantled it themselves to prevent it from falling into enemy hands during the city's decline. There is also a symbolic theory. When the temple was abandoned, priests performed a ritual deactivation, dismantling the statue to return the deity to the divine realm. Yet all of these remain speculations. No written evidence has been found to provide definitive answers. The mask's modern journey is equally dramatic. In 2003, it was stolen amidst the chaos of war in Iraq and vanished from the museum for months. When recovered, it was broken dirty and showed signs of deliberate abrasion. Restoration took years to restore its original elegance. In hindsight, the episode symbolizes the fragility of human heritage. Even after surviving 5,000 years, it could disappear into darkness in an instant. Yet the most important aspect, the one that renders the Walker mask timeless and enigmatic, is the story centered on its white marble material, a material that should not exist in the region where it was found, a material that demanded exceptional technological and artistic precision, a material that reveals long-distance connections, trade routes, and technical capabilities of a civilization we still understand only partially. The stark contrast between Mesopotamia's natural conditions and the presence of a marble masterpiece has led many to question, did the Sumerians possess knowledge and techniques far more advanced than what history records? Or did earlier unknown cultural networks exist, networks we have yet to uncover? And thus the Walker mask is not merely an ancient face. It stands as a reminder that history is never complete, that beneath the dust of ages lie fragments pointing to a greater truth, one we are still striving to understand. The white marble face remains a symbol of power, beauty, refinement, and unanswered questions. It invites us to look deeper, not only into the perfectly carved surface, but into the mysteries behind its creation. A mystery beginning with its extraordinarily rare white marble, the very element that transformed this mask into a timeless wonder, transcending eras, distances, and every limit we once assumed of Sumerian civilization. Amid the peaceful countryside of West Wickham, where white chalk hills lie silently beneath a thin veil of mist, there exists an underground world whispered about with a blend of curiosity and fear, the Hellfire Cave. At first glance, no one would imagine that beneath the ground stretches a massive man-made tunnel system extending hundreds of meters into the hillside. The deeper one walks inside, the more it feels as though reality is slipping away, as if each step leads into another dimension where time, sound, and light distort in strange ways. The greatest mystery lies not only in the tales of the infamous Hellfire Club, but in the structure of the cave itself, a sprawling underground network so extensive that it seems almost impossible for 18th century technology to have created it. Yet it stands intact and solid, challenging every doubt of the modern age. It is said that this cave system was dug entirely by manual labor at a time when machinery was almost non-existent in rural England. Yet somehow, workers managed to carve long, straight, winding tunnels following a complex design, all while ensuring they did not collapse or trigger disasters underground. This becomes even more mysterious when considering that the geology beneath West Wickham Is chalk a material both soft and brittle, extremely difficult to stabilize when digging deep? Any misstep could have caused a catastrophic cave-in. Strangely, however, the Hellfire Cave has remained structurally sound for over 300 years, as if protected by an invisible hand. When the first torches are lit along the dark corridors, one can feel the rising dampness clinging to the skin, the temperature dropping sharply after only a few steps, and the uncanny resonance of the space and acoustic effect that specialists say only appears in structures engineered with meticulous care. This leads many to believe that the tunnels were not merely for mining or entertainment, but part of a ritualistic architectural design meant to represent a descent into the underworld. From the bright entrance, the path narrows and darkens, guiding visitors through twisting passages seemingly designed to disorient. With each step, natural light fades until it is replaced by a dense darkness that feels almost alive, threatening to swallow everything. These tunnels are not only deep, but carved across multiple levels, creating strange acoustic phenomena. Footsteps echo from the front, while the sound of one's own breathing seems to drift from behind. Archaeologists who have surveyed the structure admit that creating large hollow chambers tens of meters underground, all interconnected, would require knowledge of gravity, load-bearing compression, and force distribution far beyond what 18th century workers were believed capable of. And yet the tunnels stand a historical paradox, carved into the earth. The mystery does not end with the vastness of the tunnels. The layout of the Hellfire Cave unsettles many because it resembles a symbolic map rather than a simple architectural project. From the expansive underground banqueting hall, with ceilings unusually high, as though carved by extraordinary precision, to the river named Styx, modeled after Greek mythology, everything suggests that the designer intended to recreate a spiritual or ritualistic journey. But the deepest and strangest chamber of all is the inner temple, the farthest point in the system, isolated by a small bridge crossing an artificial river. Visitors must walk through icy air that feels devoid of life, then descend onto uneven ground to recognize the depth of the chamber. Surveyors affirm that the inner temple lies intentionally deeper than all other passageways, marking the symbolic endpoint of the descent. And this is where the greatest question arises. How could people of the past dig to such depths using only manual tools without causing deadly collapses? Some documents mention that local workers were hired to excavate the tunnels, but the number of workers, the duration, and the exact methods remain unclear. The laborers left behind no records of reinforcement techniques. There are no support pillars, no reinforced walls, no structural additions found anywhere in the chalk layers, yet the entire system remains intact. Theories abound, from lucky excavation through unusually sturdy chalk formations to speculation about hidden experts aiding the construction. Some conspiracy theorists even propose that the cave was expanded from a much older, pre-existing tunnel network, later renovated in the 18th century. Geological surveys contradict this, but doubts persist because it is difficult to believe that primitive tools alone produced such a sophisticated system. Everyone who has entered the Hellfire Cave agrees that its depth feels far greater than expected. The air pressure subtly changes as one descends, a rare phenomenon in man-made tunnels. Cold drafts rise from cracks whose sources remain partly unidentified. Some experts argue that the ventilation shafts were intentionally engineered so smoke from torches could escape. But if that were true, then the workers' understanding of airflow must have exceeded what we believe possible for the 18th century. These unusual ventilation patterns also give the Hellfire Cave an echo reminiscent of giant stone cathedrals, an effect difficult to explain if the tunnels were meant only as underground meeting rooms for a secret society. Legends of secret rituals, strange footsteps, and ghostly figures, seen at the end of dark corridors, only enhance the fearsome reputation of the Hellfire Cave. Yet beyond these tales, what truly makes this place one of England's greatest mysteries is its engineering, a man-made network, stretching hundreds of meters underground, complex, precise, inexplicably stable, and nearly impossible to fully explain with the technological standards of its era. The Hellfire Cave stands like a second world, where every meter of tunnel seems to pose the same question. Who dug this place? How did they do it? And have we truly understood their real purpose? If the Hellfire Cave was truly built for a secret purpose that history has never revealed, what do you think that purpose was? An experimental engineering site, an underground ritual center, or something entirely different? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The Graubaul Man is one of the most famous and haunting bog bodies ever excavated in Europe, not only because of his almost perfect state of preservation, but also because of the unanswered questions surrounding his identity, fate, and role within the spiritual world of ancient Northern Europe. When he was discovered in 1952 in a peat bog near Graubaul, Denmark, archaeologists could hardly believe their eyes. The body of a man who had lived more than 2 millennia earlier remained astonishingly intact. His skin still retained a certain elasticity, his hair was still on his head, his fingernails were clearly visible, and the wrinkles on his face looked as though they had formed only weeks before. Even his fingerprints could still be seen with the naked eye. It was as if time had stopped at the exact moment of his death and kept his body suspended in the cold silence of the bog. What do you think allowed the body of the Graubaul Man to remain so astonishingly preserved for more than 2,000 years? Was it purely a natural phenomenon? Or could there be a mysterious spiritual element behind it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The peat bog, with its low pH, high tannin content, and oxygen-poor conditions, created a natural laboratory capable of preserving human remains in extraordinary ways. Soft tissues became tanned like leather, while the bones softened and grew flexible. Yet what makes the Graubaul Man stand out from most other bog bodies is the exceptional degree of completeness. Many bog bodies are fragmented or partially preserved, but the Graubaul Man is nearly whole, as if he had merely fallen asleep beneath the wet earth. His skin turned a deep, reddish-brown characteristic of bog tanning, giving him the appearance of a being caught between life and death. What is most haunting is not just the remarkable preservation of his body, but the manner in which he died. A deep cut across his throat reached down to the vertebrae, a clear sign of violent death. There were no defensive wounds or signs of struggle, suggesting that he was either restrained or accepted his fate. Histological analysis shows that his carotid artery was completely severed, meaning death came almost instantly. This has inspired numerous theories. He may have been a victim of ritual sacrifice, chosen during a time when his community faced natural disaster, famine, disease, or social unrest. Others propose that he was an executed criminal, but the purity of his placement and the sacred significance of bogs, seen as liminal spaces between the human world and the realm of the gods, makes ritual sacrifice the more compelling explanation. His final meal also adds a fascinating layer to the mystery. Analysis of his stomach revealed a porridge made from more than 60 types of wild seeds and grains. It contained no meat, no luxury ingredients, yet it closely resembled ritual foods found at other ancient sacrificial sites. The mixture of weeds, husks, and low nutritional components has led many researchers to suggest that this was a ceremonial meal, linked to rites involving death renewal or communication with divine forces. This deepens the mystery. Perhaps the Graubal man was not merely the victim of violence, but the central figure in a sacred ceremony. Yet the most profound mystery, and the reason the Graubal man is one of archaeology's most captivating enigmas, is his identity and life story. Although modern science has advanced tremendously from radiocarbon dating and soft tissue analysis to X-ray imaging CT scans and attempts at DNA extraction, none of these methods have been able to answer the most essential question: who was he? No grave goods were found with him, no markings on his body, no tattoos, no jewelry, no tools, and no personal belongings. Even his clothing is gone, either dissolved by the bog's acidity or intentionally removed as part of a ritual. All that remains is the body itself, and even in its astonishing completeness, it cannot reveal who he truly was. Based on bone and muscle structure, researchers estimate that he was around 30 years old, healthy, and possibly a laborer or craftsman. However, his bones lack the heavy stress markers typically found in manual workers of that era, complicating assumptions about his occupation or status. His softened bones make marrow analysis impossible, and the partial DNA retrieved is insufficient to establish ancestry or familial ties. He was not royalty, not a warrior, yet perhaps not an ordinary man either. Individuals chosen for sacrifice often held special symbolic roles within their communities' intermediaries between humans and gods or bearers of spiritual meaning. If this was his fate, then his death was not just a personal tragedy, but a moment of ritual significance. His identity raises an even deeper question. Did he willingly accept this death? There are no signs of restraint, no defensive wounds, and his face is frozen in an expression that is difficult to interpret, part surprise, part resignation. Some scholars believe he may have consumed alcohol or mild sedatives before the ritual, entering a half-conscious state. Others argue that he might have gone knowingly and willingly, as sacrifice could have been considered an honor in ancient Northern European belief systems. Still, all of this remains speculation. No evidence is strong enough to illuminate his life story. From what remains, we know only that he lived, worked, ate, breathed, an ordinary man of his time. But when he entered the bog, whether by choice or force, he crossed from the world of the living into the world of the divine. Becoming a mystery, modern civilization cannot fully unravel. The fact that his identity and life narrative remain shrouded in darkness is precisely what makes the Graubal man so compelling. Egyptian mummies often come with names, titles, genealogies, and histories, but the Graubal man is completely silent. He left behind no writing, no carvings, no symbols, only his body. And that body, preserved in extraordinary detail, stands as a testament to the unknown. It invites archaeologists, anthropologists, and history enthusiasts to ponder endlessly what happened to this man. Who was he to his community? Did he have a family? What path of life led him to his final sacred moment? These questions have never and may never find answers. Today, the Graubal man rests in the Moesgaard Museum in Denmark. Visitors observe him through glass, a body unchanged since 1952 and unchanged since the moment he was placed into the bog more than 2,000 years ago. The light casts shadows across his features, making it seem as though he might open his eyes at any moment, as if time paused only temporarily and could resume again. But even if he were to awaken, he would likely remain silent. For silence is the essence of the Grobali man, an enduring witness to a past that history can no longer speak. Among the silent hills, where hot winds sweep across ancient stone walls worn down by time, the Tower of Silence rises as a monument that is at once sacred, frightening, and mysterious, so mysterious that the modern world still cannot fully explain it. For the Zoroastrian community, this place is not merely a funerary structure. It is the boundary between life and death, between impurity and purity, between the mundane world and the spiritual realm, where the soul must cross the Chinvat Bridge to begin its eternal journey. But for outsiders, these strange circular towers have always been filled with countless questions, the most astonishing of which is the mystery of the remarkably rapid decomposition of human bodies, an occurrence that has puzzled scientists many times, while ancient legends push it into the realm of the sacred and untouchable. What do you think truly lies behind the unusually rapid decomposition of bodies at the Tower of Silence? Natural forces, ancient architectural techniques, or something beyond modern human understanding? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The architecture of the Tower of Silence may appear simple at first glance, but the more one studies it, the more one realizes that it is built upon a profound philosophical system. The entire structure is a massive stone circle composed of 3 concentric rings separated by gender and age, something rarely seen in other cultures. The outer ring is reserved for men, the middle for women, and the inner for children, all facing toward the central bone well. When sunlight enters the well, the natural heat combined with the sun-baked stone creates a special environment believed to accelerate decomposition. Yet no matter how high the temperature, it still cannot fully explain the stories from hundreds of years ago, when the Parsi claimed that within just a few hours or a single day, a body placed on the tower would almost completely disappear, leaving only fragments of bone gently falling into the well. Records from Western missionaries in the 19th century describe similar scenes. They could not believe the speed at which the body transformed, a strange dissolution that surpassed all biological understanding at the time. The Zoroastrians believed the answer lay in nature, specifically in the massive flocks of vultures that once lived in India. Their sharp eyesight, incredible speed, and ability to strip flesh almost instantly made them essential to the process. However, even with this explanation, many questions remain. How could only a few dozen vultures completely reduce a human body in such a short time? How did the Dakma's architecture naturally attract them with near ritual precision? And why, according to several historical accounts, did bodies still decompose unusually fast, even on days with fewer vultures? These questions deepened when modern scientists re-examined the phenomenon. They discovered that even without vultures, the heat concentrated at the bone well is significantly higher than in the surrounding environment. Some theories suggest that the circular shape combination of materials and the intentional slope of the stone floor may have inadvertently created a natural solar furnace, maximizing the power of sunlight. Others go further, suggesting that ancient builders understood principles of reflection and heat absorption far more than we assume, and that the Tower of Silence may in fact be a sophisticated structure designed to accelerate decomposition without leaving behind any written explanation. The more people investigate this mystery, the clearer it becomes that almost everything happening inside the Tower of Silence is enveloped in deliberate silence. The Zoroastrian community treats death as a deeply sacred matter, and any attempt to record, observe, or study the rituals directly is heavily restricted. This is one of the main reasons the world has so little information about what actually occurs within the Dakma. Researchers who have tried to approach the towers can only observe from afar, facing a smooth, windowless circular structure with no roof and no visible clues to how it functions. To them, the tower is not just a religious symbol. It feels like an ancient mechanism that continues operating as it has for thousands of years, following principles that no outsider can decipher. In the 21st century, the population of vultures in India plummeted due to diclofenac poisoning, drawing renewed attention to the mystery of rapid decomposition. Now that the birds are mostly gone, the process is significantly slower, but strangely in some places, bones still fall into the well faster than expected, as if the structure itself plays a role. Some environmental engineers suggest that the towers can still reach temperatures capable of accelerating tissue degradation. Archaeologists propose that the stone used in Dakma construction may have special thermal properties, but all these remain theories because no one is truly permitted to investigate the interior, and that very prohibition deepens the mystery, sometimes fueling myths that stretch far beyond the boundaries of religion. When anthropologists attempt to interview the Parsi guardians who oversee the Dakma, they receive only vague answers. Things happen as they should. Nature does its part. One should not question what belongs to purity. These responses give the impression that behind the silent tower lies a system of ancient knowledge. Knowledge the Zoroastrians believe cannot be conveyed through modern language and should not be shared with those outside the faith. It is perhaps this dedication to secrecy that has made the Tower of Silence one of the least understood ritual structures on Earth. The mystery does not end with decomposition. It is rooted in a deeper philosophy. Zoroastrians believe that earth, water, and fire are sacred and must not be polluted by corpses. Thus, the Dakma emerged as the perfect solution. The body does not touch the ground, does not contaminate water, and is not burned by fire. Everything is entrusted to wind and sunlight, considered the purest elements in their ancient worldview. The rapid disappearance of the body is seen as proof that the soul has shed its physical form and continues its journey. For outsiders, it becomes evidence, suggesting that ancient people may have understood natural processes in ways modern science has yet to fully grasp. Today, many towers of silence have closed or are no longer active, yet the phenomenon of rapid decomposition persists as an unsolved question. Was it merely the vultures, a special thermal mechanism, or a perfect combination of natural knowledge, religious philosophy, and generations of tradition? The Parsis do not try to explain, nor do they need to. For them, the mystery is part of their faith, part of the sacred cycle of life. And it is precisely this silence, this refusal to provide a final answer, that has made the Tower of Silence one of humanity's most enduring, alluring, and enigmatic ancient mysteries.